the people who are on the VOD or get the alert immediately would hear us, but know that you are live currently.
Understood.
One of the things that is weird, which I'm going to tweak right now, is I double-checked, and it wasn't me. Five Nights at Freddy's is, in fact, in 16 by 9, as is the rest of the series, but not 2.
Oh, well.
And the people who ported the game, they were like, that's the stuff Scott gave us, so until we get graphics that basically go to widescreen, that's what we got. But what it does mean is that while I have this tiny box in the bottom of the screen for me being able to like talk and stuff like that, to show up on screen, I can actually shove this, crop it like I would Breath of Fire or something and do 4:3, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to chop it off. And then slide it over. Actually, let's do math really quick.
Math.
And
My
and this
favorite.
is Cody the Kingslayer, by the way. That's exclamation point Cody in the chat if you want to check him out at some point.
That guy's a scrub. I don't know what you want to do that for.
We're all scrubs, man. I haven't even had my year anniversary yet, you know?
That's true. That's true.
It's coming up, though. Right in the middle of me moving. Perfect. What was
That is an awkward time for that.
Yeah. Also, right when ES would happen, if ES wasn't pandemic problematic.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's see here. So, 4:3, 16 by 9, I always forget. 16, 9, 4, 3. So one is multiplied by 4 and the other one is multiplied by 3. So that means I need to divide 1920 by 40 by 4, which gives me 480, which means that I need to chop off 240 from the left and right sides of the screen. Perfect. Math. Got it.
Yay,
okay.
Math.
Math. Live in action.
While you're wrapping up the live and in action math, I'm going to grab a quick snack to have by me so that I don't have to interrupt myself later on.
Okay, what the... Okay, weirdly you... Can you say what you just said again, maybe? Try and spike the mic, because it looked like you went red.
I shouldn't have spiked the mic. I was saying I'm going to go grab a snack real quick while I, basically try to get it done now out of the way, rather than later during...
Right, but just for a second, actively try and spike the mic. We want to make sure that's right when you come back.
This is me actively spiking the mic.
I'm gonna go with orange, which isn't a color. You're on the threshold of yellow to red, so I'm just gonna knock that a notch to the left. It'll be fine. Okay, you go do you. I'm gonna finish setting up this screen and talk to anybody who shows up early.
Right. Be right back.
Yep. This is exactly why I'm not supposed to delete the blue background. Copy. Hi, how you doing, everybody? This is casual time at the start of stream. You know how it goes. Okay, so if I come over down here and I turn this off of print, there we go. Okay, that's part of the issue. Oh, hi, Carl. Ladies, gents, and the whole spectrum in between. Go for Muns. Hi, every Mun. You know, every Mun. Go every Mun. Alright, moving myself up over here. Let's see. That's not a lot of crop, so I can actually just pull myself... Alright, I need this to give me... Was going for grandiose. Everyone can be grandiose. It'd be fine. How you doing, Carl? We are not quite on the amount of time that needs to be done. Stuff needs to be edited so I can... Oh, and you can join us again if you want. God damn it, what is happening? Rawr. Grabbing the FaceTime. Okay, got that. Doing alright in a meeting at work, but part is done. Wait, hold on. That means the chat is behind the screen. Has the chat always been behind the screen? No, it's not behind the screen. It's just very slightly cropped. I did it. Okay. But my part is done. Oh, okay. Ah. Let's see here. Properties. Let's make the width 480. Oh wait, it actually would be 480, wouldn't it? It would be 480, so I don't want it to be 480. I think I kind of want it to be 470. Chat is ready to display, but what did Carl say? Doing alright, and oh no, you already said that. Erp.
Hello, Carl. How are you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huzzah!
See that you're doing all right, but figured I'd say hello to myself.
Ugati says hello back.
Indeed, I got this.
Ah. Okay, so me? Oh, that's the bottom of that window. That's not what I want at all. Excited for this project. I'm picking up today. I'm converting our Vault API key system to a containerized cluster. It's going to be awesome. Excuse me one second. Is this thing... Yes, that was very slightly stretched. I think I cleared it up. Okay, alright. I found a filter that I sometimes, depending on what game, apply to the text chat. Especially when it's this blocky. Where is it? I'm looking for... Sharpen. Oh yeah, that's super sharp. Okay.
All the sharp?
It's gotta be pretty sharp.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't really say that I know exactly what you're saying, Carl, though I'm guessing it's something to do with like condensing your API key system.
I know what an API is. I got that far. Sorry for everybody who might be watching later, I am periodically wiping out Carl's messages by changing this window.
So, from what I understand, like API keys, as opposed to just like, they're like, they're kind of like authentication tokens, but not like as secure. They are something along the lines of something that identifies what part of the application is calling an API. Or calling to the API.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again? I was moving stuff.
I believe that an API key system basically works by identifying to the API what part of the system is calling it to it, rather than like a full-on, like, more secure authentication token. I've only done very limited reading on that kind of stuff, so I'm not super knowledgeable about it.
Well, Carl says you're spot on.
Huzzah!
You did it.
I did the thing.
Ah. 4x3 old horror. Alright. Testing. And okay, oh, Carl, importantly, if you could why is my head chopped off? That's important too. 1 second. No?
Okay.
What I was going to ask is if Cody could, if Carl is there, if Cody could for a moment count back and forth like numbers with me real quick to make sure that I am not like super audio desynced while we are having a conversation. like we were on the... It wasn't a really bad desync. It didn't ruin the video, but I noticed it and it really bothered me to the point where I wrote descriptions on all the videos. I was like, and Hunterman apologizes for, like, this shenanigans that is happening.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do some back and forth number counting.
I forget, what's in the top left corner of the screen? Anything?
Isn't that your flashlight energy?
I think it's slightly over. It shouldn't be in the way of our names, unless I'm wrong. I don't know if I have the old videos. Let me see if I have the last videos. I think I already copied them over, so I already deleted them from this external drive.
Well, apparently, Carl, there was an issue with the Elgato having some built-in delay last time, so apparently Hunterman would start speaking, but it would only show up like half a second later, as opposed to the more direct connection straight from like Discord to this. So we were in sync with the channel, where Hunterman was basically 0.5, 0.6-ish seconds behind.
Yes. To be super clear, for anybody who's on stream who watched the old stream that led up to this, where I went through all 5 nights at Freddy's, and I'm going through and went through the first 2 nights of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because I didn't finish modifying this interface before we went live, you know, like now, so we'll see how that goes. What happened was, the old Elgato HD60 that I used for video capture previously, because this is a console game, so I have to video capture it with a capture device, that had a built-in delay that I went into Blender and read the milliseconds on to basically get it as close as possible, which came out to about 240 milliseconds. So since the Elgato had a built-in delay, and one of the things you'll notice in like maybe the very first episode of Ratchet & Clank way back in the day when I was first starting recording console games, is that my reaction to what's going on screen would be a little delayed. So to counteract the Elgato, I would have to include a video and audio delay for my face cam information so that I lined up with what was happening on the game. But since that time when I was capturing with the Elgato, I have a brand new awesome video capture device, the AverMedia, and it is what I'm using to capture now, but I forgot to, because I was using old settings, undo the filter on my audio and video. So even though you guys were hearing me correct in the voice chat in Discord last time, I was being recorded a little bit late to both my reactions and also to like having a conversation with you guys. I would periodically be talking over you. Like you and Cody would essentially be responding to things I hadn't yet quite finishing saying yet, kind of thing, because it was, you know, 640 milliseconds is not small. It's not Dr. Xamph on satellite trying to play Lancer yesterday, but it's not small.
It's about half a second.
Yeah, well, I mean, 640 milliseconds, it's slightly more than half a second, yes.
Right, that's why I said about.
Let's see here. So, which also means, in case anybody hasn't noticed, and recently, because I haven't played as many console games this year, it also means that the time between me doing stuff on screen in the game and also the time between responding to chat, typing something in chat, has been even further reduced. So last year I reduced everything by getting faster internet and turning on low latency on my Twitch stream, but now because I've lost the slightly more than half a second full delay on the Elgato capture that I had to account for, it's even faster between what I send up to stream and what you guys respond to. So, while I'm doing console games specifically. Let me see. Oh, I was looking up... Did I just copy FNAF? I just copied FNAF out and I didn't actually have a folder left over? That's so weird. Well... I don't know. We'll figure it... Well, I guess... Cody, be my spotter. We will do some testing and we will see if there's some bad placement stuff that's on screen. The real trick is, since this game is in 4x3, I can put most of my everything out of the way and also be a bigger picture because there's so much less game to look at. So there is
Right.
that.
That is a thing.
It looks weird on this screen, but that's fine. I didn't quite get all the... Well, actually... Let me see if I can get to the point where you can see most of the eyeballs. I've got some of my favorite horror music cues, which is the very slight, like, child xylophone playing in the background, like Child's Play 2 style. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I would say, as the series went, Scott did a really good job at giving off and invoking that horror feel, but using sound as well as the weird kind of distorted visuals in a medium that was really fairly simplistic.
Oh yeah, well, one of the tricks to doing good horror is, we can probably say this on stream if you're ready to go.
I'm good.
Confirming that I see our audio bars moving on both screens. I believe that I do. I have other stuff I need to delete later. Okay. Ready to do an intro if you are.
Sure.
Alright. Welcome back to Improvision Entertainment. My name is Hunterman.
I'm Cody the Kingslayer.
And you can see Carl is right here in the chat. He can apparently hear us pretty clearly. To anybody who is watching the playlist, including the playlist of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, let me reiterate what I just told everybody on stream. So, in case something seemed a little bit off for my reactions last time, it's because I had something off with my reactions. A quick explanation is I'm using a different video capture device to capture the game footage off of the Xbox One, which is the version that I am playing of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, with a controller. Pity me if you will. In any event, previously, when I played Five Nights at Freddy's 1 all the way to Night 5 but didn't finish it last year, I was using a different video capture device which had a slight delay in it. About 640 milliseconds. And, well, a little more than half a second, basically. And I had to turn on a filter for my visuals that you're seeing and my audio which you are hearing so that they would line up and also line up with the game footage over to the side. And because of that, when I was retrofitting the interface last time before doing the last stream, because I woke up late, because of course, I neglected to remove that delay, even though I'm using a new capture device which essentially has zero delay. So if there were moments last time in which the intro was getting messed up, or if I was reacting a little bit later than you were expecting, or what have you, I don't think in the viewing that you might have noticed now if I hadn't said anything, but if you go back, you will notice that I noticed. It was bothering me, and I made little descriptions at the bottom of the video because of it. But that should now be gone. That should now be gone. I'm going to double check on both screens and make sure the filters are gone. It looks like the same video. Okay, filters are gone. Second point. This over here, we commented last time how that's weird, why is the game cropped on either side of the screen? Turns out Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the only console port of the game that, for whatever reason, is a 4:3, which you can see here displayed by these black bars. But on this screen, I have now full old school cropped so that I have a bigger picture in the top corner of the screen, a little bit more out of the way, and also all this. Oh, another thing I screwed up, Cody, is I ended up moving my bug for Improvision Entertainment on Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and I put it and my death counter in the way of the night and time display in the top corner of the screen, which of course made really great viewing.
Well, it was one of those things of kind of struggling to throw it all together at that last moment. Sometimes things like that get missed.
Because plenty of people played Five Nights at Freddy's 2, if you want to see the game, just wait till it goes full screen, like you could skip ahead in the timeline. But otherwise, Cody and I were going to mention about... I was going to say, one of the great things about doing good horror games is you got to work within limitations. And working in limitations lets the human mind build in all the rest of the parts to freak you out. And so one of the nice things about, one of the limitations, if you will, that they do in a lot of horror games, which is why Resident Evil old games have tank controls, and why you're sitting in an office in place in these games, at least to start with, is because limited mobility is one of the go-tos to giving you more horror. that gives you chase. It's you know, it's not uncommon also in like Dead by Daylight, same basic thing. Like how the game is of a slower movement speed in general because it creates a more tension and gives you more time to think about your options and what have you. I think you would probably agree.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's there's a trick that runs similarly off of that. Like when you let's say you were to go into a haunted house, like in modern day haunted house attraction, oftentimes you'll see the use of strobe lights that are set to different frequencies of light flicker, and
Mm-hmm.
all those what those are doing is they're distorting your perception of how quick and how fast and how slow things are moving, as well as obscuring what things are there to give you exactly that sense where your mind is filling in those details. The games go about it a different way. Obviously they're using sound cues and things like that to make you wonder if there's a thing happening or if it's just you're filling in the details of what it could be rather than anything the game has ever told you that it is. But it also uses, again, in this particular case, this particular game, again, that fact that, like Hunterman says, you're stuck in a chair. You don't have agency beyond just a little bit here, a little bit there, as far as closing a vent, flashing a light, checking the cameras, and watching what doom may be heading your direction. And it builds a great tension, exactly the way it's intended to.
I had a horror game idea. Follow me if you will for a moment.
Of course.
Which was not which was kind of like a double wrapped horror. So imagine the main story is this character who goes into who is basically doing a full dive VR, and the story is about this kind of Matrix style. She is loaded into this VR realm and doesn't realize that she's being her mental state is being backed up somewhere, and some cataclysmic thing happens where she doesn't know that she has died, and her life continues on because basically the backup wakes up somewhere else. Carl says wife wants these games. I'm going to gift them to her on Steam. Okay, but make sure she plays Horizon Chase Turbo first. Okay, no.
First off, great idea, Carl. They're not all terribly expensive. However, I will say there is FNAF Help Wanted. If she's looking for the experience of the games and not specifically the individual game playthroughs, FNAF Help Wanted, which is a slightly more expensive title, I think it's probably still in the $20 range.
And is VR.
And is VR capable should you have access to VR equipment, but there is a flat mode as well for those who don't have that. That game encompasses the gameplay of the first through fourth game.
Yes, dare we say a remix or reimagining of the earlier games are all in that game?
Right, they're done as within the game world. They are video games inside of that world where you are going through and doing those nights.
Made by a crazy video game creator who may have damaged the brand.
May have damaged the brand. Yes.
So
okay, that's a great game, and I would highly recommend it. And if you just want to pick up the other ones just to have them and play through them, also great idea. They're fun games, very frustrating games at times, but fun games. But I highly recommend you go through all of them, including the one that you will not find on Steam, which is FNAF World, which is an RPG, old school style type game that has absolutely nothing to do in terms of gameplay with Five Nights at Freddy's, but is still in and of itself a fun experience and hints at some of the lore that will happen later, even though it's technically been disavowed, but not technically disavowed. Yeah, anyway, not going to get into the lore connections there, but recommended, and I can help you find that one for free because it's not up for sale. It is, in fact, a free product now by Scott.
Right, because he was like, "I'm sorry, it wasn't up to my standards," and you know what? I can respect that. So
yeah,
okay,
totally.
So my concept idea is the wrapper, if you will, the thing that you're just supposed to accept as part of like science fiction type stuff, is that this has happened to this character. She learns it pretty quickly, and she's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not dead. I'm obviously still here," because she still has connections to, because you do your account authentication, and so you're still connected to your cell phone and stuff like that. So even though the cell phone is physically gone somewhere, she's physically gone somewhere, like she still has her connections, and she's calling out to the family like, "I'm having trouble logging out, can you call the company," this, that, and the other, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You're gone, like, you're gone. We think you're gone, or you need to be saved," or something like that. A big catastrophe happened. But that is one level of the story. The other side of the story is the game that she's in. I was doing a combination riff. It was called Necrotic Galaxy, which was a combination of Dead Space and Metroid. So
Okay.
she is living her existence in a horror game that she is not herself necessarily horrified because she's somebody who plays a lot of horror games. So even though she's in this horrible setting, she's kind of predicting the things that are going to be happening next because she has literally nothing else to do because she can't log out to the main interface to get to the big overworld like MMO that she's inside of. She's stuck in the one brand game. So she's stuck in a horror universe playing as a character. And part of the RPG-ness of the overarching idea is that... Hold on, Carl is saying a lot. What game is this? Dead Space plus Metroid? Yes, that is correct. I'm just putting out I made a title for it and everything. It's on DeviantArt as far as like what the title screen looks like. But the idea being that while the main story is, because it was written as a story, not necessarily as a game, though I did have an idea about doing it as a game. The idea being that she is trying to... They're going through the process of saying, out there in the real world, is she a legit person having court battles, yada yada, and all the meantime, she's just like, screw it, I need to get to the end of the game, because if I can get to the end of the game, then I'm gonna have a lobby scenario and maybe be able to leave the game and go at least interact with other people. She's stuck in a single player experience where all she can do is kind of like we're doing right now, which is one person playing the game, and she can at best call people on the phone. But because this cataclysmic event happened in the story universe as a tsunami, it wiped out her coastal town in New Jersey. All of her friends are also dead, except for like one or two people who were away on spring break visiting family or something like that. Everybody else is dead, so she doesn't even have that many people that she knows to talk to because everybody's gone. So it's like, it's horror wrapped in horror, and it's weird things that visually the most horrific stuff that's going on is the game world, but the character isn't actually horrified by that. And I thought that would be an interesting twist on doing it. Like, you've played so many games, it doesn't really bother you anymore situation. Until that video gaminess of this main cutscene is happening, and I am about to be overwhelmed by odds, and I don't know how to handle this. So you still maybe not the same horror of the horrible thing is happening, but more like, oh shit, like for the first time. That can still happen. I need to create an output projector. I need to create a source projector. That's what I need to do. Alright. I don't know. Just an idea I had. I had Carl at Dead Space Metroid. Yeah, well, you know...
The problem is the idea... Becoming a game is a lot harder than just having the idea.
Absolutely.
That takes artists, that takes programmers, that takes a lot of effort.
One of the things that I get told a lot is don't tell people your ideas because people will steal them. And I'm like, I can't possibly do my ideas. Like, I can't get to my ideas. So if somebody wants to take what I just said and make a cool game out of it that's actually of production value, okay. If I get to it first, I got to it first. Just special thanks to me, if you would, please. You know, if you took this idea. But
or maybe even a small royalty wouldn't be a bad kickback. Cough, cough.
I mean, that would be really good, you know? It's small-time streamer over on Twitch. Speaking of which, small-time streamer, I now have, yet again, the most number of subs I've had. Because somebody tuned in the other night to watch some Stellaris after Carl and Mal had gone offline. And they were like, you've been streaming for 16 hours? So I was like, to be fair, I mean, the first 4 hours were Breath of Fire. And they were like, I don't care. Here's my Prime subscription for the dedication to playing Stellaris for that long. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. Like,
very nice,
cool beans.
Very nice. It's getting to be almost 4:30. Did you want to possibly be getting into FNAF, or did you have other stuff you still need to take care of?
I am ready to go when you are. This was the... Carl says, Hunterman, make this game. Okay, Carl.
Yeah, that's what I was responding to earlier.
Carl, you are the next closest person to help me make a game like this because you can code. I hope you understand that. See,
unfortunately,
I have all these ideas.
I have those skills.
I'm just saying, you guys all have skills, including 2-Ply with the art. Like, I don't know that we could make the horror game work with the art, but we could definitely make the JRPG idea I have with the art. Like, the more people I could get on the same page, that is the biggest problem with me making a game, is that right now I've confined myself to the idea that I need to make a Twine Sugar Cube text-based game and make the best text-based game I can, because I can control all aspects of that, and me typing out hundreds of thousands of words doesn't drain me like it does other people. I can do that. But making all the art for a JRPG, or double-checking all the way the script works for whatever type of game, like, that is so much work that if I tried to do it and learn it and figure out how to do everything as one person, I would be lucky if in my life I managed to create one game of that magnitude. I need people. I need Improvision Entertainment. I need other employees. So,
Right.
Well, Carl, for example, you're saying you're not an advanced enough programmer. Help doing coding stuff on the side of the JRPG concept I have, if we were to use RPG Maker, just requires some JavaScript. I can look that up, and if I can look that up, you can definitely look it up, and you can probably do fancier stuff with it than I can, as far as, like, containers and save files and stuff like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Cody.
No, hey, Hunterman. Hey, Cody.
Oh, hey.
Hello.
Let me make sure that you look proper on both screens here before we... Yeah, that's fine. Okay, go on. Carl, everybody, welcome to Warboss Skarsog. I will always say that wrong. Unless I didn't. Did I say it wrong? I did say it right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sounded right to me.
Think Soggy Scar, but backwards.
That's exclamation point Carl in the chat, I think. Wait, no, it didn't work.
I believe it's Warboss.
Is it Warboss? Oh, it is Warboss. Alright, Warboss, there you go. He streams Stellaris? I guess. He hasn't gotten to his miniatures yet. Sorry, you chimed in?
Yeah, I do Stellaris with Hunter, a little bit of WoW. I will occasionally, very rarely, stream Cuphead in like the wee hours of the morning when I'm coming down off of a creative bender and I've been gluing my hands together for 6 hours.
Because who doesn't want to have hands that won't come apart?
I know, right?
I will say this recording is 16 minutes, so I think maybe I'll just mark this as intermission. Let's just go on. We'll just talk until we're done now.
Did you want to do a restart? For the
I mean, we
actual
can
video?
do that when we actually start the game, but obviously Carl chimed in to like, what's up, Carl?
Well, I was just joining to see how y'all are doing, and like I'm working on something. I just don't want to be typing a bunch while I'm talking to you at the same time because I have to type on 2 different keyboards. So this is way easier.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if it's JavaScript, then I mean, why the hell not? My boss is trying to teach me JavaScript anyway, so.
Oh yeah, the
I
coding.
can help with some things in JavaScript myself. It's the one language that I have a little bit more familiarity with, but again, I'm not by any means an expert, as Carl can attest to.
No, it's fine. I'm not really an expert either, but my
I don't
boss
think
is
it really
like, "I'll teach
requires
you Java."
expertise.
I'm like, okay.
I don't think it requires expertise exactly, which is why, again, this is why I was like, if there is 2 types of games that I could make, it would be a text-based Twine/Sugar Cube game that I could do everything by myself, or I could make a demo with RPG Maker minimum so that I could get other people interested and possibly find people to help me with it. And, yeah, my understanding of, unless something has changed, pretty much all the quote-unquote coding of RPG Maker, because it's already doing all the RPG stuff, is all in JavaScript. And so the most fancy stuff to do in JavaScript would be anything the game doesn't do by default. Making a tactical battle system, making it play like Metal Gear, which I'm told by plenty of people, an absurd number of people, is actually easy to do if you know a little bit more than basic JavaScripting. And I'm like, alright, well, we can try.
Well, I mean, I understand the concepts of object-oriented design. I've just never had to make anything that's object-oriented before, so...
And unfortunately, JavaScript itself is not particularly object-oriented.
Right. Well, the
I
RPG
mean,
Maker would be doing all the heavy lifting on that part.
But, like, it does lend itself to fantastic object-oriented design later on because of its natural...
It can pretend to be object-oriented.
In the beginning, it does pretend.
Yeah,
it's like very much a pretender's game until there's like a fulcrum point in your JavaScript education to where it goes from just pretending to, holy shit, I've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my use of JavaScript for creating interface is explicitly getting JavaScript to fool itself into thinking it's creating a HTML for a web page, and me knowing how that all interacts so that I can make it so that tables and image calls and stuff like that are all popping up in what it's creating. I have used basic HTML, but also JavaScripting and all the stuff that's included in Twine and SugarCube to basically make character creation, like character sheets and stat readouts and character selects and item inventory screens and stuff like that, just by making the game / JavaScript make table headers and things and create layouts using CSS. And I've done all that.
Oh, you're talking a fully web-driven game.
Well, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about... Yeah, that's what Twine SugarCube is. It's basically... Twine SugarCube is running in HTML, but what it is... Well, obviously HTML is a markup language, it's not running in it, but I'm saying the HTML pages have these JavaScript, basically, codes that make it so that the page is all self-contained, and so that the entire game...
So it's embedded JavaScript. Yeah, that's not bad.
Basically, what you're talking about is if you can do that kind of stuff, you can program stuff in, like, Node.js.
Well, I mean, I already program in Node, so...
Well, I know you can. I'm just saying, like, Hunterman could, too. If you can do that kind of stuff, that's literally... I mean, you're just using, you know, Node, maybe Bootstrap. You know, you don't have to use Bootstrap. It's just an easier way to do CSS.
It is.
But yeah, it's CSS and it's HTML, and you can actually make programs. You can do all sorts of things. As far as the assets are concerned, like I don't know. Yeah, there's going to take time to like build the visual elements and get people to do those types of things. But if you're just looking for a simplistic type of thing like that, you know, the options are there, in or outside of things like RPG Creator.
Yeah, for me, like I don't know what the like. I don't. As I've said a couple of times, I don't think of the setting of... I don't think of Five Nights at Freddy's the games as horror games. I think of them as more stress management games set in a horror setting. When I think of horror games, I think of Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. I think of Dead Space 1 and 2. Notice I didn't say 3. I think of... I think of Heavy Rain and... Not Dead by Dawn. No, wait, that's a different thing. Until Dawn. Until Dawn was amazing. And Heavy Rain was pretty good all by itself. And those games played with, like... Heavy Rain played by using the controller as your way of, like, almost using clay on the world. So some of the parts of the game would play like regular, like, analog stick to move, analog stick to camera type stuff. But when it took to action sequences, you would do weird things like you're trying to get through a fence. There's a hole in a fence, but that fence is electrified, and you need to get through it. So you actually hold the controller in such a way that you, like, go to the L1, to the R3, to the L3, to, like, you're basically manipulating the way the character goes on screen, doing the on-screen prompts, and it's making you bend in real life to simulate the character going through the fence in the game, and I thought that was really cool. Or for action sequences, like having the prompts pop up over the characters like it was some sort of light gunless, like, Time Crisis or something. And then Until Dawn, quite separately, is literally a video game that plays like a horror movie. And your best way to succeed through that game is to understand the tropes of horror movies and how you need, like, what paths to take, what character actions to choose, and it plays into... Everybody has, like, a stat sheet that kind of says, this character is like this, whether they're compassionate, whether they're aggressive, whether they're whatever, and it kind of tells you. And if you kind of play into the character roles, not necessarily what you yourself would pick as the character, which is always the mistake, but to play the character like they would play out in the horror movie scenario. And because it's multi-pathed, all kinds of stuff will change later in the game. Sometimes slightly, sometimes in a big way. Sometimes characters will live and die. It's possible to beat that game having everyone survive, having no one survive. There are literally different trophies for only the women survive, only the men survive, only one character survives. Like, and different things throughout the games will play out, different damage to different characters based on interactions they fail or succeed, but it still somehow manages to do all the proper horror movie setup. You see... the baseball bat, when you're trying to turn the lights on by fixing the generator in the basement way earlier in the game, you see that there's a baseball bat there. And I'm like, you can't just show me that. That comes up later. Like, there's going to be a chase sequence or something later. And I'm going to have to remember there's that fucking baseball bat there. Like, and that's just a small example, not really a big spoiler, that's just like, the game does the proper horror movie tropes of, are you paying attention to what's on screen, this, that, and the other? Okay, I'll say one other one, which is a playthrough lost to time that if Mal was here, he'd know is on the external hard drive that has the Halo 5 video and everything that's gotten missing because the external hard drive has become unaccessible. But there's this one point early in the game in which you walk by this old-timey grandfather clock, and I'm like, I'm on to you. At some point later, I'm going to be creeping around or something. Lights are going to be out, I don't know, and it's going to be spooky, and you're going to fucking ring. I know you're going to go off. Freaking grandfather clock. I know that's what you're there for. Cut to, like, 10 episodes later, and it does exactly that, and I was like, I knew it! Like, it still kind of made me jump, but at the same time, I was like, but I knew you were going to do that! I'm on to you! And it's a good feeling. If you like horror movies, I highly recommend... If you haven't tried it Until Dawn, definitely play it blind.
Meaning no walkthroughs.
Yeah, meaning no walkthroughs.
Yeah.
I don't mean actually blindfolded Punch-Out, because that's crazy.
To respond to the original point you were making, that was kind of buried in a few layers there, but about Five Nights at Freddy's being a horror game, not being a horror game, I would say my personal take on it is it is in fact a resource management game, but it is also a horror game because the entire theme of the game, the entire field, and not just the setting, but the fact that it is storytelling horror through the series of games makes it a horror game. Not the individual game itself, but when you string it all together, like, it is definitely a horror game because the whole focus is about the horror of finding out what is happening and the deep dive into the lores and stuff like that. It's just that at the meta level, not even the meta level, but at the top level, it's a resource management game.
Yeah, and I'm not here to have a hot take and say that Five Nights at Freddy's isn't a horror game. It's just not a game I think of when I think of horror video games.
Sure.
When I think of horror video games, I think of games that are using their gameplay, presentation, and mechanics to give you horror, and Five Nights at Freddy's does that except for the mechanics. Well, actually, I take that back, except for once we get past 2, really. Pretty much once we get past 2. Because 1 and 2 are very resource management. But 3 is a little bit more Punch-Out, a little bit more Monster Hunter, a little bit more Dark Souls, in the, like, you can pay attention to how the guy is moving through the building and where to spot him on screen, and the sound effects and the ghosts and, like, the mini game bookends that happen between each chapter and stuff like that. I would say Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is definitely a horror game because that's all it's doing with its mechanics, is it's trying to be horror to you.
And then 4, I mean, it's straight up horror.
Oh, 4 does one of the best things any horror movie can, or any horror game can do, or any game that worth its salt tried to do that, which is it leans into the audio. Do you hear the thing at the door? Do you know what direction an attack is coming from that you need to go defend for? Like, that's good stuff.
Every time you go to a door, there's the suspense of, is it there? And then there's the thing of, that if you choose wrong, you're going to get that loud jump scare, which of course fuels the adrenaline. And then when you do get jump scared, it just hits you that much harder.
When it hits you even harder in 4 specifically, because in 4 specifically, the reason you get jump scared is because you did something, for the most part, or didn't do something. But, like, actually, no, I take that back. It's because you did something. In the other games, it's because you didn't do something. In 4, it's, oh no, was I supposed to pull the door shut? No, I was supposed to flash the light. Oh, that means if I let go, it's gonna jump me. And you let go and it jumps you. Like, yeah, you did that.
Yep, that was awkward. But I'm just gonna toss it again. It is now 4:40. Did you want to get into the game? Because
I do want to get into the game. Anything else, Carl? Anything else to add? Do either of you have favorite horror games? While we end this thought. This is bonus. This is bonus at this point.
Depends on what we call horror, and I definitely have some horror subgenres I am fond of.
That's super vague.
I mean,
have either of you played Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem?
So, no, I have not played that.
I would say Amnesia: The Dark Descent's a good one. There's also I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a not
Hanako
so
CC
new.
followed me. Thank you so very much. I was not expecting that. Oh, I see the Zombo. Oh, I need to move the Zombo.
There is a Zombo. And the next one is not a new game by any means, but several years back it seemed kind of new conceptually, and I'm totally spacing on the name of the game. But you take over the role of a blind girl, who the whole navigation of the game is through sound. She taps with a cane.
What was that called?
And then there's like a supernatural bent to it. I know anybody who's played it would probably immediately know the name. I'm just horrible with the names of things.
Oh, what? How did I forget Alien Isolation? Alien Isolation is amazing.
Yeah, Alien Isolation is decent. If you're just looking for what does horror well, there's also Simulacra. And again, I will go with Five Nights at Freddy's 4.
Man, sanity meters and everything. If you could take the idea... Wait, actually, before we move on, do you guys know the concept, gameplay-wise, of Sanity's Requiem? Like you said, you have never played it. Do you know how it plays?
I'm not too familiar with it.
Carl?
I'm not very familiar with it either.
Okay. So this was so before we move on, then we'll just get this out of the way. So there is a GameCube game called Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem, and the game is kind of like Old Gods Cthulhu style, but it's not Cthulhu. It's like old school, like that type of horror setting. A woman is brought back to her old family home, which is like a mansion, and I think New England, because that's where all this stuff has to happen, is New England. And she finds out that not only is her grandfather dead, like she knew, and she came to see the estate and stuff like that because it's been left to her, but he's super violently dead, and the cop just shows off the body, and she's like, "What? Why would you show that to me?" And he's like, "Oh well, we had somebody to come in and identify the body because there's no head. We couldn't check the teeth and everything. But if you say it's him, we're gonna go with it's him, and the whole house has been left to you, yada yada." She finds this tome of Eternal Darkness. It's missing pages, and it tells out. It's one of the many things that it does is basically every single chapter that you find for the book is written in a different time period, using basically a baseline gameplay mechanic, but you're playing as different characters in different time periods, in often but not always different places in the world, and you're playing through this general horror setting. But the way that the game really, really gets you otherwise, like with the sound direction and the fire popping and stuff like that, but the way the game really gets you is actually getting you. And that's kind of the best part. Because back then in the 90s, which is one of those things that would be really super hard to do, what I'm about to describe, but way back in the 90s, most televisions had similar graphical displays for everything. And so the game messes with you, the player, the more insane on the insanity bar that your character gets. It messes with your character, but stuff like walking into a room and not being able to do damage, or suddenly beginning to shrink or grow larger until things freak out, the music cue plays, the game flashes, and you go back to the opening of the room like nothing had happened, and the character goes, "This can't be happening!" That's all fine and good. But there's stuff like every once in a while, if you try and randomly, when you try and save your game, it will say erasing memory card. And you'll be you'll have enough time to read the screen and be like, "Wait, no, what are you doing? What did I press the wrong button?" And then it'll flash screen, "This can't be happening." Or the old school Lagreen mute will appear in the top corner of the screen, and you'll stop hearing all the game audio, and you'll look around "Where's my controller?" Because it looks like exactly what it looks like on your television. And that stuff there's a whole bunch of manipulative jumps, not jump scare, but messing with you psychologically things. Oh, my favorite that I almost watched a friend smack his television for was the appropriately sized cockroach crawling across the television screen in higher definition than what was going on in the game world.
That's cool.
Yeah, he pulls off his
I'm
shoe.
familiar with what you're talking about. I remember having heard of this stuff. I just couldn't place it to the game.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. And so my thought is, you would have to kickstart the shit out of doing a game like this today, because you would have to have enough technological understanding where you'd have to be like, because some Steam games do stuff like this now, right? So what you do is you check, you'd say what version of the operating system is, so you know to do the Windows volume slider and stuff over to the side, as opposed to like the volume up and down across the bottom of the screen green, because you try and play Eternal Darkness now, you play it in an emulator or something like that, a lot of these scares are like, they might mess with you, but they're not gonna like fool you like they would have back in the day. Like if you were to play this game, either of you, I literally have a 25-inch television that has the exact interface that this game used. It was perfect for me. So every time it tried to do the green mute or the green volume or anything like that, tried to do the menu or flick, and it says it's on input 1 now when it's not supposed to be, and so you can't see the game anymore. Like, that stuff was perfect for my television. I have one of the televisions. It still works. It's over there in the corner. Like, right. CRT. So, yeah, when I think, like, horror games, that's one of those go-to. Yeah, like, Alien Isolation is an easy go-to because it plays out like a stealth game, but its stealthing and its setting are all about horrifying you, and you can never basically kill the main antagonist of the game, and it's all about the one-hit kill of if it grabs you, you're dead. But it's still, in my opinion, Isolation might be like the best Alien property thing, including the movies. Just in my humble opinion, like, it's really good. You can't have it without the movies, so you still got to see the movies. But all right, we're a ways in. Are we ready to start?
Yeah. I mean, I've been ready since 4, so whenever you want to go.
I'm sorry, Cody. I know you want to see me suffer, you know?
No, it's not about that. I just know that I'm only here for somewhat limited time, so I don't want you to lose me too much.
It's okay. There's always Stellaris or Truck Simulator after this. I can make stream go longer than 4 hours, so... Right. Go up to 4 hours at least, because, man, having some rest would be good. But, I guess, if we're ending this what is now a decently long intermission, I will say that this intermission has been Improvision Entertainment, almost presenting Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I have been Hunter Munn.
I have been Cody the Kingslayer.
And I'm Warboss Garsog.
And we will see you in the actual game, which is about to start in the playlist in the future. Alright, I guess I will run some quick ads because we're going to have a new phone thing, and it has been some time. It feels weird, but you got to do it. You got to run the ads. On that note, Carl, you going to stick with us for the game?
I may not be playing or like paying too much attention to the stream, but I am here for conversation.
Okay. Then all I ask is every time we start a new night, or we do one of the death mini games I haven't gotten yet, to just take note of that and try not to talk over for anybody who by chance hasn't seen those things yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we're just waiting out the timer. What can I say? I like video games. Oh, there's the link in the chat for the Discord, apparently. Oh, that reminds me, actually, I need to so that Cody doesn't have to do that, I can still have the other Restream bot periodically saying the message information. God, alright. This week I have a lot of off-screen work to do. I want to get the follow animation done, and I'm gonna get the sound thing set up, so that people can distract me while playing Truck Simulator, or interrupt me while playing Five Nights at Freddy's. Not that I'm currently planning on going past 2. But...
Not currently.
You see, the thing about playing Five Nights at Freddy's that I didn't really care to play is that I didn't think I would enjoy playing them, which is why you guys are on call for this. But the other side of the thing is, the further into the series you go, the more I'd be interested in playing them. Does that make sense? Because I think the gameplay overall is on a generally upward arc.
Oh, for sure. The games definitely get better as it gets later in the series.
And I'm definitely looking at the next game because I'm like, that looks like... The only trick is I have watched / helped people go through something like Alien Isolation, but I know if I was in that game playing that, it would be freaking me the fuck out. And so that's kind of probably what Help Wanted and... wait, what are we calling it? Wait, what's the new game's name?
The new one's going to be Security Breach. Also,
Security
hey,
Breach.
Molly.
What? Molly? Oh,
Hey,
hi,
Molly.
Molly. Molly Wolfie. Is that another Wolfie? And Carl, who you don't know, I don't think. Carl's right here. Longtime
hello.
patron. Longtime subscriber, actually. You're here for the party because you haven't missed anything. We've just been talking about horror games for the past 45 minutes, so we're about to start. Ads should be done. Molly shouldn't have gotten any ads, hopefully, because my ads turn off pre-rolls for a period of time, which is that ad you get before you jump into a stream, which is part of the reason I run the ads. Because, it's way better to make the ads happen on purpose when where they're least inconvenient, as opposed to whatever the fuck YouTube's algorithm is doing. Because
The YouTube algorithm's even worse on mobile. It's bad enough on just desktop, which you can kind of do some things with ad blockers, but on mobile it's just awful.
it's everywhere that isn't an ad blocker is freaking terrible for YouTube. YouTube algorithm is a nightmare. I agree. I just freaking hate that. First of all, currently, I think maybe until next year, currently, there shouldn't be any ads on any of the videos that are on the Improvision Entertainment YouTube channel! !YouTube in the chat. That may change as we get an audience but at that point, okay, YouTube generates where it's going to put the ad breaks and why it picks the middle of people's fucking sentences and decides that the best thing to do is to play a 5 to 15 second to sometimes, hey, why don't we put in a movie trailer ad in the middle of somebody's thought, especially when that person has basically purposefully designed ad breaks and stuff like that. That's the thing. You can go in and manually, in case anybody doesn't know, you can go into YouTube and you can say where you want ads to show up, which is what I would do if I was actively trying to put ads in, which I'm not, because that's a whole nother level of work. I need somebody to manage the YouTube channel at that point if we're going to start doing that level of granularity. But, just the idea that it's literally interrupting the middle of somebody's thought to the point where, I have bad short-term, what we were just talking about. I have a JRPG thing where someone literally tells me what they just said, and if that game doesn't have a log thing that you can go into the menu to see the NPC dialogue you just had, sometimes it'll be like, oh, fuck, what did they just say? That's me. And if you do that with ads, it's even worse. Molly says, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
My favorite ones are when people are trying to quit an addicting habit and an ad pops up advertising something that goes against that. Oh, yeah. I watch left-wing progressive political channels all the time on YouTube, and every time it's PragerU, it's the election was stolen, it's this, that, and the other. It's whatever the fuck ads that are the opposite political persuasion from what I'm trying to watch. And,
the one that I found that was particularly amusing on that bent wasn't a political thing, but for those who may watch Game Theory, Film Theory, any of those theorist channels, Matt Pat a while ago, Matt Pat being the guy who was basically the head of these and created the concept.
Yes, Matthew Patrick, Matt Pat.
Yes. He was trying to kind of cut out and quit the Diet Coke thing and kind of move away from it. It was during the middle of his attempts to start completely cutting it out when I was watching it. I had installed a new browser, didn't have all the ad block stuff set up, and sure enough, Diet Coke ad. Which of course is his favorite drink, of course, and he's trying to cut it out, and it just seemed hilarious that of all the things, that's when a Diet Coke ad would roll.
Molly also says a friend was talking about having, I don't know how to say that, celiac, and celiac, maybe
celiac disease,
and lactose intolerance, and needing to quit eating breads and cheese and tomato soup, and an ad popped up. The person was eating grilled cheese with their soup, celiac. Molly says,
yeah, celiac.
Yeah, because somewhere in the background, and I know why this is happening, and everybody should probably be aware. The Yes, thank you for the pronunciation, because I don't want to say words wrong, but I do it all the time. Okay, but is the algorithm is listening to what's in the video, so it's like, oh, you mean related to this? Like again with the political channels thing, when anybody's talking about how bad Amazon is or our healthcare system or whatever, I get ads for like using Amazon, getting Amazon Prime, or I get ads for like put specific pills or insurance companies, or sometimes I'll get car insurance instead of medical insurance. Like, that's what's happening, is because the YouTube algorithm is paying, let's call it, superficial attention to what's in your video. That's the type of ads it puts on your video.
Yep.
And
non-smoking ads on Booster Stream. Wow, that's funny.
Oh, and related to what you just
the machine
said,
learning algorithms with that are not very advanced.
They're learning. They're not there yet.
Right, they're definitely learning.
Yeah, they're kind of idiot savanting it. Like, they can be really good about what they're trying to do, but they do it in such a dumb way. Oh, I mean, and I forgot, the other side of the equation is, if any of your videos in any way, especially on YouTube, are tagged a certain way, companies can buy putting their ads on stuff with certain tags. So you may make a tag for your video that is explicitly against whatever the fuck they want to advertise, but if they buy ads to play on those tags, then the ads will play on those tags even though you're against it.
Yep.
It's a nice little advertising middle finger.
My husband and I made a joke a few days ago about having 57 babies, and now we get diaper ads on other baby products everywhere. Where did you make those jokes? Did you make those jokes on Facebook?
Dude, I have that happen to me, like, not even on my computer. The mic itself is turned off and muted, so there's no way that I'm being listened to by the computer itself. And just talking, not on technology, but my phone nearby. Like, no joke, this happens all the time, me talking with 2ply, and then, like, within an hour, at most, I'll start getting those advertisements for something that we were talking about pop up on Facebook. It's like, okay, it's very clear that what's going on here. Something is being picked up on my phone. It's recognizing the speech. It's saving the speech for the recognition thing. And Google's going, hey, that's a word. And Facebook's like, hey, I can listen to everything you've ever said and done. So I'm going to advertise that to you. Have fun.
So, on a related note, because my story stuff always, like, for me, the worst offender, regardless of all the way YouTube algorithm is or isn't doing a thing and the people are buying ads or not, to me, the worst offender is always Facebook. And I have this one grand example of a few years ago, after I just met Daniel. We were having conversations about how, like, there's things that weirdness keeps coming up because we talk like we're together, knowing, like, being stuff the same age, but actually he's like 10, 15 years younger than me. And as a result, he doesn't have certain things in his life or in his life experience, and that just happens. But, like, one of the things was, like, what do you mean you've never watched Columbo? Like, how can you, if you like detective stories, how have you never seen an episode of Columbo? Well, I don't know. Who is Columbo? What do you mean, who is Columbo? And we have this verbal conversation. We're on Facebook Voice, and we're just talking. And I shit you not, within an hour, and for the next few weeks, I started getting advertisements of Amazon on Facebook that here is where you can find copies of the Columbo DVDs. Like, I wasn't typing Columbo into Facebook. I didn't make a Facebook post about it. But I was like, and at that point I was like, wait, you son of a... Alright, that's it. I stopped using Facebook Voice. Like, I have to stop. I'm sure that other companies are doing that stuff, but Facebook is the only one who basically was sitting over to the side of the sidewalk, listening to what I was saying on the front porch, scribbling down notes, and then the next couple of days would run up and, like, knock on my door like Mormon style, and be like, oh, I heard you wanted this thing. Like, go away, stop stalking me. What are you doing?
I'm just saying, when targeted advertising is so bad that you don't even have to have your phone turned on, it's just literally chilling out in the room with you somewhere. It picks up your voice, and then within an hour you're getting advertisements on Facebook for something. Yeah, okay, they're definitely a little bit more than just regular stalker-ish. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah,
Molly says she'll have to start talking about getting ducks for free. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why you'd want ducks. I think Cody has opinions on ducks.
Well, Arizona Jack had opinions on ducks about ducks being dicks, but I mean, it's a thing, and they can be. They can, in fact, be dicks.
That's true. That's
So,
true. Carl, you were gonna say?
Yeah, involving this same topic with overly spying things. So y'all know I don't know if our friends in stream know, but I know that the two of you are aware that I am heavily anti-organized religion.
What? No, that would never happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people in Truck Simulator might also know that also. Oh wait, I don't think those videos are posted yet. I think they're about to post, actually, timeline-wise.
But I get ads on Facebook for some church offers somewhere. something.
Wait. Churches have offers? Somewhere. I've been atheist forever, and I don't know that I've ever gotten an offer from a church. What offers do you get from churches?
Okay, but
I also have some
I should know. He's anti-religious. I am merely atheist, so I don't know what the anti-religious ads for religion are.
Oh, it's not like it's people trying to make you religious again is exactly what it is.
The difference here is that Carl is very militant about it and is very, very passionately, talking about it a lot everywhere.
Yeah, I lead a couple of it. Well, I used to lead a couple of anti-theistic groups, and I am still part of the community with that. So, I feel almost as if I am being targeted specifically to try and convert back to specifically Southern Baptist theistic.
And just to throw this back, as we do have Molly saying that Molly is not anti-religion, but grew up in an abused Catholic school and hates Catholicism with a passion. Completely understandable, let me just say.
So you're anti-Catholicism. That's fine. You don't have to be anti all the religions. That's fine. Think Catholics are nice. I got waterboarded and starved on a rumor made by a mean girl for being gay. Wow.
That's fucked.
That sounds exactly like my experiences with Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school for 1 year. That was enough. That was fine. I was done with that.
That's religious compassion for you. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I was gonna say another problem with the way Facebook does things, to kind of go off Carl's point, is Facebook has algorithms specifically designed to get you looking at the screen because of conflict. I see, for example, I have to turn on notifications for Cody and I think 2ply and other people so that I will even fucking see their posts, because all Facebook wants me to see is my libertarian friend, my conservative friend, my other conservative friend who has views I don't really agree with but is quote-unquote capital letter F friend on Facebook. Like, I've had good role-playing experiences with this person, but the political views I don't agree with. But Facebook really wants me to get into a fight with them, so they're the posts that keep populating in my timeline to the point where
that generates content.
Yeah, that generates. That's right, because it's eyeballs. It's getting you to look at stuff, to interact with things on Facebook, and I get that. But like, man, we need some not pro conflict algorithm shenanigans. Like the number of times, first, like something is changing on Twitter, where I am seeing a lot more often, people will have a comeback remark to somebody going, oh, that's not how that works, it's any other bloody blah, correct somebody like they do, but then the person responds to them and goes, oh, I didn't think about it like that, that's so weird, that's not how I meant that, no, I meant it like this, and I'm sorry, that's not what I was like. I see a lot more apology replies on Twitter than I'm used to, and I don't know if just because I've favorited the right people and I'm in all the right corners, because it might be that, but at least on Twitter, I seem to be getting more like-minded posts rather than posts that are just supposed to be, there's a chance this might piss you off and we want you to come back and be pissed off about it, which is what Facebook does.
Right. Yeah. Facebook has a lot that's wrong with it. I'm not gonna go into all of the things that are wrong with it, but when it comes to Twitter, the idea is to build a like-minded community.
Rather
in their algorithms, right? So they want to see people getting along because, well, I think honestly that the executives at Twitter were kind of appalled over the past 4 years of activity within the political state of the United States.
Not to mention they want to become the next Facebook. And
when they come out, they say
Twitter's
we can't.
Less toxic than Facebook, straight up.
We can't ban everybody who has fascist tendencies because then we'd be banning a lot of representatives from Twitter. I'm like, maybe you should just be banning a lot of representatives from Twitter, guys. Like,
I'm sorry, but politicians have no place on social media. I know it's a great place to talk about your shit, but let's talk about how things happened during the 2015 and 2016 election that caused an entire third of our population to turn into fascist fanatics.
Yep, that about
That.
Well, you got to keep in mind that we got to give them time to cool off because their fascist fanaticism is more tied to red team versus blue team than it is an actual devotion to the beliefs of what red team was espousing for the past 4 years.
Humans are tribal in nature. Red team versus blue team is the core of our behavioral survival patterns.
Yeah, but people spew repetitive things based on the culture things, the echo chambers that they're in, without actually believing them. Let's go back to religion for a second. That's what that does. When you're talking about, like, oh, you know, this is against my beliefs, this, that, and the other beliefs, and this, that, and the other beliefs, would you ask the person, you sit them down, and you go, okay, let me lay it on me, what are your beliefs? And they don't have anything to say but talking points. They don't actually believe those things. When I say something like, I don't believe that you should ban the President of the United States from social media because he's a piece of shit, or that he's a fascist, or that he's whatever, I'm saying that from a standpoint of, I don't believe you should do that to the President of the United States. I'm not saying that because it's Obama, or it's Biden, or it's Trump. I'm saying the President's voice should get out there because he's the only one that should have that special privilege. He's the President. And if you really want him to stop saying those terrible things, you need to go through the political process of fucking removing him as President, not giving corporations the ability to mute our elected leaders so you can't hear what they're saying anymore.
So I used to disagree with you until I had thought it over recently. Now, provided that our president is not another fucking Donald Trump, I agree with you. But that man should have never been on Twitter ever.
Well, okay.
That guy
Counterpoint.
was right-wing racist.
Counterpoint. Trump
shit.
shouldn't have been allowed on Twitter, and then when he became on Twitter, he should have only been allowed to have the POTUS account because he was president. And the real problem was that he kept being president. It wasn't that Twitter was letting him talk, it was that he was still president. Twitter shouldn't have let him talk to begin with, then maybe he wouldn't have had all the followers, Apprentice, all this stuff. And, oh, I missed something Molly said. Think politics are okay on social media as long as you are not bashing other parties, speak your passions, but the minute you hear screw the blank dummies, they're immediately retaining that information. I agree with you, Molly, because that's the whole problem with, oh, you know, I can't fix climate change because Al Gore made that movie. Well, those 2 movies. And I'm like, that means you don't believe anything. If you say, this person says a thing, and because that person said a thing, I don't believe, like, I don't agree with what they're saying because it's that person, even if it's the right thing. No. You have to be able to look at the most reprehensible person on the planet Earth and say, when they make the one thing that they've ever said that is actually correct, you need to be able to go, well, okay, they're right about that. You need to be able to do that. You need to have beliefs of your own. If you just have talking points and regurgitation, you're not going to have that.
Well, you're right on what
Booster's
you
asking me if I beat the game yet. Yes, I have conquered the title screen. You are correct, Booster. Yes, that is. No, we've been talking horror games and now social media stuff for almost an hour.
Same fucking thing.
Technically, though, I mean, we probably should be just chatting at this point, given that it's been over an hour.
Okay, I mean, I can do that. As soon as
way,
we do that, we'll dry up and we won't have anything else to talk about. But yeah, okay.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, but like, I'm just saying, just so you know, you don't get dinged by Twitter being stupid. Or Twitter? Wow,
Twitter?
Those are the words. Well, we were talking about Twitter, but like Twitch being stupid. Also, Booster.
Wolfie says Christianity and Catholicism has been warped to fit an agenda. Gayness being an abomination was not in the original translation, and it was not in the translation until it was translated in English. The German translation of the Bible does not speak on gayness and is considered to be most accurate to the original. I love that you say gayness and like not homosexuality. That's kind of a weird. But in any event,
it is less letters.
It is less letters.
It is less letters. To that point, Molly, I will often, when I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody about religion, one of the things I will often ask them is, which edition of the rulebook are you using?
Exactly.
That's literally a role-play storyteller question I ask.
Such a good way of putting it.
Which edition of the rulebook are you using? Because there's all these different, like, if you're somebody who says, oh, what is it? Who was the... I think he was it Ben Franklin? Ben Franklin went through the Bible and he chopped out all the stuff that was like super offensive and like he has his own version or something like that, and that's what he lived by. I think that was Ben Franklin. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? You can find publications of this version of the book.
So there have been so many modifications by so many different people that it's hard for me to even put one name on any one version of the Bible that has been released over the past 200 years, because there's been like 10 in the last 200. So I'm not.
Cough, King James cough.
I know, right?
You know what?
We
Molly's point
got
actually
Space
kind of
Jesus and the Mormons.
Molly's point actually
Yep.
kind of reminds me about gayness, homosexuality. I don't know why I said gayness instead of homosexuality. Actually, I don't even know if it's offensive to say one or the other. I don't think it's offensive to say one or the other. It's just you're the only person in a long time that I've heard say gayness.
Efficient.
I mean,
Wildly more efficient.
It does use less
like
characters.
half the number of letters.
But I don't
Honestly,
remember.
yeah.
I don't remember what passage it is, and also again, it would depend on your version of the rule book. But actually, there is a passage in the Bible that basically says, like, something along the lines of if a woman is not going to be able to carry a child to term, or if it's by another man or something like that, it actually says you need to eat a certain flour or something like that, crushed up, and basically it's saying have an abortion. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was in the Bible. Also, why does nobody talk about that if they're saying the Bible is against abortion, if that's actually literally in the Bible? Don't look at me for a quote, because I try not to read the Bible, but my understanding is it's in there, and I'm like, oh, well, of course it would be in there. Why wouldn't it be in there? Like, because
so I've read
everything
through
else
the
is a contradiction.
King James version of the Bible expressly for the point of developing Vampire the Masquerade plotline, because that's why I studied religion? Question mark.
That's fair.
Molly says they
full
also
disclosure to the
say
world,
men
I
are
am
allowed to have
basically
sex
an
outside of
atheist
marriage
for-
if it's an alternative to masturbating. Oh, well, there you go. That's in
Whoa.
favor of sex workers. That's perfect. There you go.
So, but yeah, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, I am basically an atheist because I am a gamer, and I read a lot of books related to my gaming that happen to be religious texts, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why does the Epic of Gilgamesh all over the Bible?
I'm just saying that there are plenty of totems you could follow in Werewolf the Apocalypse that are a lot better for your religious consultation than many of the different versions of the Bible. That's all I'm saying. When I start trying to Clashing Boom Boom or Grandfather Thunder or what have you, there are certain aspects of the different totems that I find, and we even have a negative totem in, what is it, Pater something, that is, there's a father-like spirit that is oppressive that is in the Black Fury tribe book, which is basically Yahweh, and I'm reading this going, that's basically Yahweh. That's what you're talking about.
Yahweh. I have to step away from my keyboard for just a second. My blood sugar's starting to drop low.
All right.
You had me thinking for a moment when you mentioned Clashing Boom Boom, because one of the parts that's actually written into Clashing Boom Boom's lore is that it will also, it takes the appearance of various warriors, including the Archangel Michael, and that kind of brought that one oddly full circle in that little bit right there.
Well, I mean, I think off the top of my head that the only totems that would actually be definitely bad for you to follow in the Gaian realm of Werewolf the Apocalypse would be Almighty Dala and Easy Credit. I was like,
well, yeah, probably.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, actually, the Glasswalkers have the totems I would probably not be following at this point because capitalism.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably kind of a bad idea to run around accepting everything that you view to be a challenge and, meeting it head on, including every fist fight everybody suggests. These are things that are not good ideas. And so that kind of puts, totems like Fenris on questionable ground.
I mean, you're not wrong, but also capitalism.
But yeah,
Which one of those two things do I find less acceptable? Capitalism.
Well, that says something, doesn't it?
Question everything except
nothing without studying. Exactly. I mean, and to
nothing is forbidden, everything is permitted. Thank you. Yes.
To your former point where you were talking about, the different translations of the Bible, not speaking on gayness and whatnot, from what I understood and the little bit of reading that I've done into it, which is not excessive, I'm not a biblical scholar by any means, but from what I was able to derive from some of the more original quote texts was that it was actually speaking more against those who would lay with children rather than people that were of one particular persuasion or another. And so it was directly speaking out against and saying that the abomination was, doing things with minors. Well, not necessarily the minors as we understand it today, but those that were at the time considered children.
But what version of the rulebook was that?
Like I said, this is more toward the original quote original. I say quote because, you know, I mean,
because if nothing else, it wasn't written in our language. It wasn't written. It was third edition. Okay, which one's third edition? Is that 380? Like, what are we talking about?
We're talking pre-Rise of Christ translations. And Rise of Christ is kind of subjective because nobody's really sure exactly where that came from.
Though a lot of my favorite stuff to do with the start of what people understand to be the Bible. And if anybody's watching this going, these atheists, they don't know what they're talking about, really, we'll go back and figure out where the Bible started from. Because I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff that's in Jesus Christ and otherwise that is like, and the various origin stories that are from religions before Catholicism. So, for example, historians are almost certain that, one, Jesus Christ, the character, the person, the real person, was a real person and did exist, but that he wasn't in any likelihood born on December the 25th. Just a small thing. Like,
yeah, there's, so, the myth of Christ. So there was no mention of anything involving anything with the changes that developed by Christ, quote unquote, until 80 years after his death.
Yeah, when he was dead and he wasn't actually saying or doing it. Like, people talk about stuff like they know about Jesus, but they didn't meet him.
Right. So there's more to it than that. Lifespan during that time frame was approximately 40 to 50 years.
Right.
And that's generous, to be fair. Additionally,
that's why it was a lot more noticeable when you were a werewolf because you lived longer.
Of any holy man by the name of Joshua, Yeshua, Jesus, or any derivatives thereof. So basically what it amounts to is this. I believe it was it Nicaea? 300 years after the birth.
The Council of Nicaea.
Nicaea. So the Council of Nicaea is basically the origins of Christianity where they wrote your Bible.
Molly says, my theory is that all religions all worship the same God. They just translate it differently because countries follow different rule books, as you say. To that point, Molly, I would say a few things. One, I would say the majority of modern religions all derive from the same original stories because there were so few people back then and so few iterations that, like how our genetic code, even including trees and everything, all goes back to a singular origin somewhere on the planet Earth, so does to all the religions. So, I mean, even Muslims follow much of the same portions of chunks of the Bible, so do Jews. Like, Jews believe lots of the Bible stuff, it's just that they don't think that Jesus was literally the Son of God. And that's not even including, like, all the holidays that they swipe from other religions. Like, yeah, it's all... Basically, if you recreated everything, and you had the Earth come about again from another standpoint, and you had humans be existing on the planet Earth again, different timeline or whatever, if you went back far enough, you would still come back
Spicy Catholicism, I love it.
Spicy Catholicism. You would still end up with physics and math and science and all this stuff because all of those things are things that you can practice out to, and once you've figured out how to, like, question things, you get to the same results. But, like, it's super unlikely that religion would end up the same way every time. I have at least one friend who believes that everything in the universe has whatever age it has based on what science says because God made it that way, and actually shit is only in existence for, like, the last 2,500 years, because that's as long as we've been around since God created us, and everything that says that things have been longer, and how old the Earth is.
Young Earth creationism. Ugh.
Like, he literally believes all that stuff. He doesn't dispute any of the way that the science works out just now. It's just that it's all the way it works out right now because God made it do that, and he put it in our ability. I don't know why.
Why? Give me
It's one of the few times I've yelled at a friend and go, that's so fucking stupid, is what I said.
One logical reason why.
Your husband is atheist now but grew up Muslim? Daniel has
Okay,
said
so
publicly,
to
so I
that
don't have a
guy,
problem saying that.
To
Like,
Molly's husband, that is a massive, massive achievement. Escaping Islam is as one of the most prevalent and most pervasive monotheistic chains. Escaping that is an event that it's like getting through that and realizing the damage that it's caused to that person. My heart goes out to your husband, as well as my congratulations to him for getting out of that fuckery, whatever the hell that is. It's a very dangerous topic. Yes, kudos to him.
Booster.
Booster,
Kudos
we
to
are
him
not
to escape
we are not
it.
afraid of those topics. If people want to have these conversations on my stream, I am perfectly okay with this because I am ready for it, and I have two-step authentication on pretty much all of my accounts. So, like,
So the indoctrination process to several of the breeds of Islam has been compared to being inflicted with PTSD.
yeah, no, absolutely,
It is
definitely PTSD.
Hardcore bad.
He has to pretend for his family. It's really big mental struggle when we visit family. I hear that. It's the same thing. I have to not be prepared to ask friends to give me the proper pronouns when we're in public now because I've been asked for it long enough that it makes me feel really comfortable, and then I feel really uncomfortable when the wrong ones are used. But then I'm like, I live in the state of South Carolina, and I'm, not that far from North Carolina, which we sometimes used to roleplay in before there was a worldwide pandemic and other stuff happened. But, like, oh, look at that. My heart rate is high. What do you know? Topics being what they are.
Yeah,
But-
Molly, your husband is a hero in my mind. Being able to escape from Islam.
Booster says, I'm Muslim and I have no PTSD and do my best to be nice to everyone and I give back within my capacity. I don't think I need to escape anything. Hey, you know
Now,
what? To be
some
clear,
breeds of Islam are
Carl
better than
is
others.
anti-religious.
There are like 40-some-ish breeds. Some breeds of Islam have been listed as akin to being inflicted with post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know what breed of Islam you are. Don't take this the wrong way, Booster. That's your business, not mine. All right?
Alright.
I don't want to know.
My
That's
personal
your
perspective
thing.
is if
your
you are being a
relationship
good
with God is
person,
between you and
I don't really
yourself.
care what your
I
religion
don't have
is.
one. That's between me and God. That's just how it goes for me. So, but like to be able to break away from some breeds, any breed of monotheism, in my mind, is an event. It's a pretty big feat to be able to break away from that. So, congratulations to those who have been able to take that step.
Molly says those quote breeds, which is a really poor way of saying it, to be honest, are actually not part of Islam.
I'm not thinking about what word.
I mean,
blood sugar stuff.
I used to think like what Carl is saying right now, both in an anti-theist perspective, but also or anti-religious perspective, but also that Islam like was worse. And I've come to realize, no, I mean, there are certainly like the way Scientology like captures people and stuff like that, and basically tortures them. Like that's worse. But like, I think that pretty much all religions are bad, but I don't. But I don't think more religion. I think the differences between certain religions being more or less bad is not really a huge thing. And I have one person in my life who was. I have one person in my life who was a Muslim booster, and he is now agnostic. And I don't think that there's anything like basically. I have a real problem with like the way Bill Maher talks about the Islam religion because I just realized that Twitter fixed some of my followers.
Bill Maher's
Okay,
a scumbag.
Bill Maher is a scumbag. I used to think he was something, but then I met people who actually have left progressive opinions and started realizing how much of a complete asshole who doesn't really know how things work right now. He's just talking to his centrist side of things. But in any event, like I just want to make clear that if you're being a good person, that's what I care about. My issue is I have this test that I kind of sort of have, which is if I ask somebody, how would you describe yourself in one word? For example, just as an example, my answer is storyteller. I would say I'm a storyteller. Sure, I'm a gamer, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I do all these other stuff, but when you boil it down to what would I say is the quintessential answer to that question, for me, I would say I'm a storyteller. If you are somebody who your answer to the question of what would you say you are if you had to pick one word, and you say your religion is the answer to that question, I automatically go, okay, I'm a little concerned about interacting with this person. If you say I'm a Christian, I'm a little bit worried about it. If you say I'm a Muslim, I'm a little bit worried about it. Because to me, you should be a person first. And I come from the perspective that if you're a good person, you're going to do good. If you're a bad person, you're going to do bad. And if you have religion, there's a decent chance that you can be a good person doing bad. But you're not going to be a bad person doing good with religion. That's not how it works, in my opinion.
My problem is not necessarily the religions. It is the organization. Worship God in your own home. Don't go to church. You don't need pastors. You don't need clerics. You don't need clergymen. Because here's why. They're taking advantage of you wanting to worship God and be part of a community in order to line their fucking pockets. That's what they've been for every religion ever out there, period. You don't need your clergymen.
And I could slip in and just say real quick, I think that the biggest problem isn't necessarily that side of it, though that does at times breed the issue. I think the issue is...
I would say that the greed and corruption is not exclusive to religion, but go on, Cody.
Well, that's exactly my point. I think what I'm getting at is that corruption in all of its forms, whether it's, corrupting the intent of, basic morality teachings or whatever, or corruption trying to change the laws and what have you. I think that's something that is easy to breed within any structure that has a built-in power structure, and I think that gets seeded within religion just because of the way humans are as a whole.
I mean, all the transphobe laws that are coming down. But okay, so Booster says religions have good and bad. In my opinion, some people are just bad/sick. Regardless of religion, don't be a dick. Respect others. Molly says it's the same in any religion. The few bad ones ruin it for the good ones. I know a family that I will always cherish for the rest of my life, and they are Catholic. Just because Catholicism ruined me doesn't mean I have to hate people that practice that respectfully. No. I agree with both of you. But my only point is that you can be a good person, and the way you're taught your specific iteration of religion, whatever your edition of the rule book is, specific to your family or your particular local location or what have you, that influence on you can make you hate gay people, can make you think something's wrong with them, can make you think that being transgender also means that you're a child molester, or that being a child molester is actually more trustworthy than being an atheist. Like, those types of things that come about from religion. Like, it's kind of like if you were to watch Fox News, which a lot of people still do. You're just naturally more misinformed or hatefully informed than other people. And even though there is stuff now that's worse than Fox News, it doesn't mean that Fox News got better. It just means that there's shit worse than Fox News, like OANN and stuff like that. Like, there's still things, or Alex Jones, or whatever else. Like, there's stuff that's worse than Fox News, but that doesn't mean you're going to get properly informed by Fox News. And that's kind of the problem with, like, anything to do with religion, is if you're getting your learning from books that were translated from translations, written 2,000 years ago, from the perspectives of people had back then before we had as much science and knowledge and understanding that we have right now, is like, you're just going to end up with a warped view. I don't know why flat earthism is coming back like it is, but I'm like, it's really dumb. And
2,000 years before Christianity, or 3,000 years before Christianity, the Greeks had figured out the world was round. I don't know how this is a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but
it was literally like 3000 BC. These guys were like, "Well, the shadow on the moon seems to have a curve, so I'm betting." And then they did some math, because that's what Greeks were good at, was math. And they were like, "Oh, well, the world's round."
Yeah, I mean, if you map out where the stars are in the night sky when you can see them clearly, you can figure out at the bare minimum that you're going around the sun. You may not figure out that the sun is going around the center of the galaxy, but you can figure out that the Earth is going around the sun, and that stars are moving in a different pattern, and that you can see them at different times of the day. So you can figure out that you can even figure out that the Earth has a slant because of the way stars go into and out of the night sky throughout the course of the year. Like, that's stuff people knew before anyone first put pen to parchment and wrote down anything that was the Bible.
Right.
Our chat is dried up. I don't know if they're still there listening to us go on and on, or... I still see the same number of viewers, but Twitch lies about those things.
Yeah.
I hope we have not offended you guys, and if you feel offended, please, if you're there in the chat still, voice your thoughts as to why you don't like the way we said something, because I think that more people need to be having these conversations about stuff. I have the same perspective of politics. I think more people need to be open to talk about politics, because regardless of, I don't want to deal with politics, too bad. You can't not deal with politics. Politics influence and affect everyone's life. You can't possibly sit it out. Even when you think you're sitting it out, you're just not talking about it, you're not interacting with it. That is actually more what the politicians want you to do, is to sit it out, than to interact with it. So you're actually giving them what they want.
Hunter is correct there.
Booster says, I don't consider myself a breed. Not my words,
So,
Carl's
Booster,
word.
that terminology. I apologize for that. The terminology I was using was because my brain was misfiring. I'm an insulin dependent diabetic, and I'm fighting off a low blood sugar right now. So I do apologize for that terminology. Denomination is I think the technical term for religious subsect.
He meant breed,
it was more
variety,
breed in the
or
terminology, not breed as in a literal type of thing. Like
I've occasionally used the word
I'm
tint.
sorry about that, Booster. I did not mean to, like, that's low blood sugar talking. I was looking for a word, and that was the first word that just hopped into mind.
It reminds me of when I accidentally called a fellow employee at GameStop a peon.
I'm sorry.
They took great offense to being called a peon, I remember, at GameStop one time. But I have often used the word tint. You know, if you imagine, like, whatever the default is for a religion to be a plain piece of glass, then whatever color you put on that to change it to be something other than that is a tint on it. But I think that's the first time I've said that in a while. Booster says, "Oh, don't worry, I've never been offended." I don't know if I believe that, Booster, but okay. I worked in an environment where I was called a terrorist for over a year because I am Arab. LOL. Had to put up with it because work is work.
So, Booster, I got a question for you.
I also have a question for you, but I'm going to hold it.
That the secret to peace on Earth is sharing of food, recipes, and music. What is your favorite food from where you're from?
And in an unrelated question, just and you don't have to answer this, Booster, but it's something I found out from my one friend who has Middle Eastern descent. He came to my yearly gaming party, which this will be the second year I haven't had my yearly gaming party because of the pandemic. When he showed up, I had to admit to him, you're a lot darker skin colored in person than you are over video chat. And I'm curious, Booster, if you have found anyone else who said that to you, because I could not tell that you were definitely of Middle Eastern descent by looking at you, because one, I don't trigger those things properly with skin color anyway. There are some people I was supposed to be able to tell who were indigenous people descendant, and I couldn't tell, or that they were Mexican and I couldn't tell. I can't tell where people are from, but I'd be curious if you have had the experience that people don't realize until they meet you in person that I don't know if you have a darker skin tone than you appear on video. That'd be interesting for me to know. Booster says, I don't look at foods depending on taste. I love spaghetti over anything. Oh, you mean taste alone? I also like spaghetti. Spaghetti was one of my choices for today, but I was like, nah, let me finish off my chicken teriyaki and rice. This is fun. I like this. This is American Truck Simulator talk right here. That's what this is. Carl is texting, I believe that food is a route to peace, so I love sharing recipes. It's a great way to learn about culture and preserve that information. I think he said that. Is there a reason? Did you walk away to go smoke, Carl? I missed it. Is that what you're typing?
No, you were talking and I was wanting to say something to Booster.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, I genuinely, I really feel that both food and music are two, I guess, like, global love languages. Nothing gets people to chill out better than having something to munch on and some good tunes. Nothing. Like, it works better than drugs in a lot of cases, in fairness.
Booster says, I love cheesecake too. I used to eat 2 a week, but as I get older, I have to cut back on avoid anyway. And Molly says, yeah, I'm also not offended. For the record, I have a PhD in behavioral psychology, and love my figuring out of people's minds has left me fearless when it comes to discussing literally any topic, whether they fit my personal opinions or not. And also, ooh, cheesecake! I don't know if we have like a... Is there a cheese emote we can get to? There's a stinky cheese.
I'm definitely with you on the ooh cheesecake. I'm all about some cheesecake, not gonna lie.
I don't know the last time I had cheesecake. I don't know if I ooh cheesecake. There's the stinky cheese. Stinky cheese is happening. Ate cheesecake yesterday. I'm kind of a fan of vanilla cake, moist vanilla cake with powdered sugar topping. I like that.
I have an easy and fun recipe for all of y'all if you want to try it. It's really simple. Just go get some. It's Betty Crocker's cake mix and the same icing, and then go get some of like the easy to use microwavable candying chocolates. You can make cake pops. What you do is you just bake the cakes as per the instructions on the thing, put it in a bowl, you put the icing in the bowl, stir it up until it becomes about the consistency of Play-Doh. It's like 1-for-1 ratio, 1 box of cake mix for 1 thing of icing. And then you roll it into little balls, and then you freeze the balls, and then you take them out of the freezer, and then you drop them in the chocolater's chocolate and to coat it, and then you put it back in the freezer, and it makes a really simple cake pop. They are super rich, though. I am warning you. It's like biting into a chocolate orgasm.
I mean, that doesn't sound bad. But since we're talking about food, I will say I made a over the weekend. We did a lunch over at Two Fly's mother's house, and we decided we were in a cooking mood. And one of the things I decided to make was a homemade sriracha aioli. Well, technically it was going to be a sriracha mayo sauce, but we ended up not having the mayo in the house, so we decided to just make an aioli and do it that way. And let me tell you, that not only apparently goes very good on corn on the cob, but made an excellent topper for hamburgers and cheeseburgers. That was good.
Molly says, "Listen." Period. You think that'd be a situation with "listen:" if she had something to follow that up with, but listen. Period.
I accidentally stumbled across my favorite food. I made navarin of lamb, but it was out of leftover lamb from the Easter lamb roast that I had made. And I had used Gordon Ramsay's lamb roast recipe, but like my wife, like she didn't eat very much of it, and I only ate a tiny little piece. But we had this giant freaking leg of lamb. So what I did was I cut it up and I made lamb stew out of the lamb roast. So the lamb roast has got like cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice and a few other things in it that like really kind of bring out it's a very holiday flavor. It definitely has that holiday flavor. But when I had cut up the lamb and used it into the navarin, the navarin's broth picked up the flavor from the lamb roast seasoning. So I added a little bit more as I was tasting it to go through, and it became absolutely fantastic. I can link the recipes in Huntermun's Discord for the base lamb roast that I made, and then the navarin recipe, and you can kind of see how the progression goes from there.
Molly says dried lamb brain tastes like cashews. By the way,
I've never had lamb brain.
You ever had one of those situations where so this happens? This is one of those things to keep track of with kids. Okay, just putting this out there. Is sometimes kids will do weird food combinations. I know I used to do some weird food combinations, but every once in a while, one of them's surprisingly good, and I can't name any other people's off the top of my head, but I know I've been recommended some previously. But if you haven't ever had it before, pretzels and marshmallows.
I mean, I like pretzels with sweet things a lot, so I mean that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
so,
pretzels and peanut butter filled pretzels with marshmallow fluff is Carl Crack.
Speaking of which, the chocolate pretzel Pop-Tarts, even though I'm not a big Pop-Tarts fan, are not bad. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Those are good.
Also, dunking Nutter Butters in chocolate milk.
Peanut butter sandwich made with Pop-Tarts, wild berry Pop-Tarts specifically. Things you come up with when you're really, really, really baked.
Taco dip. I mean, that's an easy one. So you make your regular taco meat, everything like you would. Maybe you put in a little bit more cheese than you normally would, or rather, you wouldn't put cheese in the taco dip, but you do that last, and then you mix it all up, and then you use that with Frito scoops. Taco dip. Chocolate and ancho chilies is A+. Ancho chilies?
Oh, spicy chocolate's so good.
What's ancho chilies?
Peppers?
Yeah, it's a chili pepper.
Oh, okay.
There are so many different types of chili peppers. Ancho is one variety.
Yeah, there's tons.
Anchu. Oh, anchu chili. Okay. Oh man. I have a variety of very simple, cheap food because, living in poverty for a long period of time. So my go-tos are the tacos and the hamburgers and the mashed potatoes, and I think the most complex thing I create is let's see, it's beef and potato noodle stew. It has like the most pieces. It uses the most pieces of kitchen equipment at the same time. And it besides cooking a turkey, it takes the longest of all the stuff that I know how to make. Pro tip to anybody out there: learn to make your own food. It is generally cheaper and comes out tasting better, after you've given it a couple of tries, than buying the same stuff in a store.
In general, I would agree with that. And I mean, let's face it, it can actually be a fun process learning to make some foods too.
Oh yeah. Though I did have one friend who wanted to get into all kinds of cooking stuff, and she has done very well for herself at this point. But in the beginning, she thought adding water to cooking something was going to add fat. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? What?
I don't think that works from a chemical standpoint.
Molly says my go-to soup base is a 3 to 4 ingredient soup that I just add to how I see fit. There you go. I take chicken noodle soup is chickeny flavored noodle soup with no chicken. How do you fuck that up? I'm just asking. So I add in some cooked chicken to my chicken noodle soup so that it has actual chicken in it. Sometimes you'll get like a little piece of carrot or a pea or something like that in your chicken noodle soup thing, like your little cup, and I'm like, but there's no chicken in this chicken noodle soup. Where's the chicken? I need meat.
Yeah, meat can be a thing. I do like to have the meat when I have something that has the flavor of the meat. It's just why have one without the other?
Indeed, quite yes. Sustenance. Okay.
All the things.
Do we want to do Five Nights at Freddy's for an hour? Oh wait, no, we're still going. Hold on. I usually brown beef or chicken, boil potato and chicken stock, and then take 2 large cans of diced tomatoes and add them all together. Then I just add or replace however I want. Okay, cool.
So, if y'all are curious, I just posted those 2 recipes like I promised. They are in Spawn Point. First is Gordon Ramsay's lamb roast, and the second is the Navarin of lamb, which Navarin is French-style lamb stew. I am Frenchy McFrench.
That's true, he is French. I've heard that.
I know, Frenchy McFrench.
Yes.
It's a very technical term.
I mean, it's like having a dark character. It's the same basic premise.
I'm so French, my name has a silent T in it.
That's true. What you mean? Wait, never mind. I won't say it on live. But just imagine ending that in a typical way. That somebody who doesn't know your last name or know you personally would actually do it. That's me insulting you by calling it that.
I know, right?
I have a friend whose last name is so German it has a hyphen and like umlauts, and I'm like, there we go. That's some good stuff.
My uncle, his name is Jacques Pierre, and then you know my last name.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, that flows together very nicely.
It does, but we are frugs.
Very frug.
It's good talk, everybody. It's good talk. Well, and we had some of the most viewers I've had for the past little while, especially on a Monday, which is supposed to be like a casual night when nobody shows up. So
basically, what you're saying is that new streams are going to be just Hunterman just chatting on Mondays.
Preferably every stream is Hunterman chatting. I'm just saying
No,
that's your best. That's your best material.
Just chatting.
Family is Italian, Pakistani, and Dutch. Nice. I think genetically speaking, I'm mostly Italian, but also possibly German and Dutch on my biological father's side. I think I'm mostly Italian though.
I'm a lot of Scottish and Irish, Northern European being the basic theme.
And to be clear,
My family
100%
is-
American. 100%
Yeah.
American.
Same. But my family descends from French, German, English, and I think Scottish backgrounds, with a stray Romanian here or there. Random Romanian.
You were born and raised in Italy. Neat.
Yeah, none of us are that cool.
Nope. I was born in an Italian named city in America. There.
That's true. You were.
Also, I think it's one of the only places in America of which that is the only place in America named that. So I'm not going to say where it is, because if I said where it was, you'd know exactly where I was born. But unlike, say, Greenville, which I believe is in 27 states.
Most overused name for a town ever.
I'm actually gonna say, unfortunately, it is not the only one with that name, Hunterman.
Well, I even found out over on the West Coast playing American Truck Simulator that California and I think Washington both have a Portland, and neither of those are, what is it, Portland, Ohio? There's a Portland, Ohio, right? So I think there's a Portland, Ohio.
Right. But yeah, I had to look it up, and your home state is not the only one with the city of that name, it turns out.
Wait, I think in another place it's spelled differently. I could be wrong about that. I think it is one other place, but spelled differently.
I'm looking at the same spelling in another state currently.
Molly says, also not a bash, but I think it's really cute how obsessed about heritage Americans are. Oh, I am not in that camp whatsoever. That is not. I do not. I have been forced to care because I need to apparently understand people's racial and skin tone upbringings to interact in society in a more acceptable manner than me just going, you're a person, and that's what I care about. How are you as a person? That was apparently unacceptable. There are a ton of Jacksonvilles.
What's wrong with America?
I think most of the, to what you're saying, Molly, there about Jacksonvilles, yeah. But also, on the East Coast here, I think Tennessee, Kentucky, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and I think possibly Florida, most of them have a Lexington, Greenville, obviously, I think there's more than one Jacksonville, yeah. Trying to remember. I think I just found out there's a Seneca in someplace other than South Carolina, which makes sense because Seneca. Yeah, we have a bunch of like, I can get lost without Waze and stuff like that because I don't realize, because I live in an era of the internet in which companies won't let you pick the same names as other people. So it's kind of weird to go from one state to the next and have that be a thing that just happens, that names get duplicated. Just the background soft audio of Five Nights at Freddy's just playing the whole time. Just
I'm listening to some lo-fi. It's this mix
bet you are.
called Jubilant Day. It's all based off of Cowboy Bebop music, so it's actually really good.
I don't understand what that means. Sorry,
lo-fi.
I think which thing? The multiple. Oh, wait. Which thing? The thing about not caring about heritage or being forced to know about heritage, or the multiple places all named the same thing, Molly? Which thing do you not understand? The names? Yeah. There's a bunch of places in at least the Southeast. I think most of the states have a Lexington, have a Greenville. I think more than one of them has a Jacksonville, like you said. And a bunch of Seneca, I'm pretty sure. I know there's at least 2 more that aren't coming to me.
Americans are not good at naming things, apparently.
Or at least not original. Like,
no original names.
Let's use the same name 62 times.
I forget, Kansas City Chiefs are in Arizona, is that right?
Isn't it the Chiefs are getting renamed, though?
I think the Chiefs are getting renamed, and they're in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yes.
Okay, wait, so what was the one that Donald Trump screwed up that I didn't care about because it's a mistake I would have made? Like,
I mean, I tried my best not to listen to him as much as possible, so it's hard for me to say.
I mean, we're long past it, but I'm saying.
I mean, I don't really understand.
I didn't know I was saying.
Anyway. It just sounded like baboon shrieks.
I don't know. I was saying nuclear wrong. Nuclear. I didn't know I was saying nuclear wrong until everyone made fun of George W. Bush for saying it wrong, and I was like, "Isn't that how you say it? What do you mean? Like, isn't?"
Yeah, my wife rags on me for that because I don't pronounce it properly because I have to think about it.
Hey, words are hard,
well,
yo.
I mean, once you actually stare at the word for a second, you realize that there's not a second U, so you can't nuclear because it's just nuclear.
Yeah,
that's all it is nuclear. How do you say nuclear? You say nuclear. But
You're
plenty
right.
of people say nuclear. Yes, kind of like that.
Yeah. If I think about it, I can say it right, but I usually don't think about it.
But I until last year, I was saying chimera wrong, so that was happening, which is chimera apparently. And I was talking about Kerberos in Hades, and Alex showed up on screen.
Like
well, the
Cerberus?
thing is, turns out it's both, but
Yeah,
the Greeks said Kerberos, so I was like, well, I'm playing a game with a Greek character, so I will say Kerberos instead of Cerberus. But it is one of those occasions in which it is both. Like spelling armor or color with an O or with a U or not. They're said the same. I just feel like color is shorter and armor, people dwell on it, so I'm like, I put the U in. Nuclear?
Nuclear.
Nuclear.
Right. No, I'm saying that she asked, "How do you say nuclear?" And obviously it's nuclear, but that's a nuclear is how a lot of people do say it.
Oh, okay, yes. I was like, no, it's spelled like. Wait, there's not a second
my
U.
wife rags on me. She's like, "You're an engineer. You should be able to say that right." And I'm like, "I'm a Southern boy. I shouldn't be able to say anything right."
Unfortunately for everyone involved, the truth is that language is acceptable so long as you understand what other people are saying. I hate to break it to everybody. It doesn't really matter if you're saying a word wrong if people know what you're saying. Like when you say shul, right, or sword. If you're being goofy about, like, I say things wrong when I'm playing all these JRPG games and stuff a lot on purpose, just because I'm swapping between them, and I think that the English language is silly. Through all the efforts we took, slaying other languages and chopping out letters to make things more sensible, over time we've still grown more nonsensible words and letters.
Oh yeah.
Aluminum versus aluminium.
Yeah. Aluminium, absolutely. I like saying aluminium because it sounds wrong.
Although it is correct. That's great.
I mean, to be fair, I believe the letters are all there to say it either way. But,
it's a noise that represents a metal. I mean, does it really have to be the same noise every time as long as everybody gets it?
As long as everybody gets it, that's what's important. So, I often say that, I was like, why are the enemies leaving Herb? Why aren't you taking Herb with you? That's my Breath of Fire one. Take Herb with you. I don't have room in my inventory to just carry all these herbs around.
Ooh, unusual automaton parts. I gotta go into Tyrannocythe? I don't know if I want to do that.
What?
I don't know if I want to... Sorry, I logged into WoW. I am farming skins and trying to get XP to push to 60. Still working on my druid.
There's the slightest possibility that when I start getting a bit more of an income from work, I may possibly try to restart WoW.
Let me know. Roll Horde.
Definitely let me know if you decide to go back to Final Fantasy
Ally
14.
again.
Yeah,
no,
Ally is come to Area 52, roll Horde, because you will outnumber the Alliance like 14.
Did they ever
to
get like
1.
a change alliance situation? Did that ever happen?
You mean like change factions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
could pay
there's
for a
pay
faction
service.
change.
Wait, so
Either-
you could play as a Worgen and then go to the Horde?
No, you would
No,
have
you'll
to race
have the
change
race
too.
change as well.
Oh, well, screw that. Oh wait, hold on, but oh, I forget which origin. If you start as a Death Knight, you can pick either side. Is that right?
No.
Yeah, Death Knight can be Horde or Alliance, but you have to go by the specific races.
Damn
Right,
it!
the Pandarans are the ones who can be either faction.
That still sucks. Get off your storytelling asses and come up with an excuse for being able to be on the other side of the equation. I hate that. I want to play as a Worgen.
Oh, don't get me wrong. That's one of the only reasons I ever had any interest in Alliance was Worgen, but it wasn't enough of an interest to actually play through the Alliance.
Oh yeah, I had
story.
absolutely
I'd
no
much
interest
prefer
in playing Alliance, and then they were like, "We have the Worgen." I'm like, "All right, okay, I'll try that." And I like their entire opening arc, and I like all their character interactions, and I finally started understanding the Alliance stuff in a weird way from the Worgen perspective. And Molly says she likes the Alliance elves, really dislike the Blood elves. Now that there are Horde Night elves, I'm happy. There are Horde Night elves? Wait, weren't there? Wait.
They're called the Night.
What?
They're like a secondary race. The allied races of each faction has allied races now that are secondary, either of a type of race that already exists or one of their own factions. Like,
but there are currently no Worgens on Horde side.
Here, I will read off the races. Give me just a second.
Oh no! And now we've gone into WoW, and I don't know if I care that much. I mean, I care about Final Fantasy 14, but that's because. But
your
by the
beast
way,
races for Horde are going to be your Tauren and High Mountain Tauren, basically.
I mean, and orcs to some extent, and definitely trolls. But I mean,
There was also wasn't also like the Vulpinar, whatever they were.
Vulpira. They are
the Vulpira.
short fox people.
Right,
Yep.
they exist as well.
The question of do you play Final Fantasy 14? Carl does. I know Cody did for at least a month, and I have also. My biggest issue with playing Final Fantasy 14 is exclusively the monthly payment. I have access to all of the
14,
content.
But it's very seldom anymore. I'm more of a WoW player. But here, give me a second. I can tell you what server.
I like the combination of the story, the gameplay, and actually the setting of Final Fantasy 14 more than World of Warcraft. My favorite MMO, to be clear, is City of Heroes, but Final Fantasy 14 is my second favorite Final Fantasy game, easy. Number one, obviously, being Final Fantasy Tactics. Before anyone has to ask, I mean, obviously.
In like 3 months, I'm gonna have to patch. I don't remember what server I'm on.
I see. I like WoW how you can use those medals as subpayments. Yeah. If you could do that in Final Fantasy 14, I would probably spend at least one weekend a month getting up whatever the equivalent to gold was so that I could pay for Final Fantasy 14, even if I didn't play it much more than that. I wish Final Fantasy 14 had that type of system. Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. I will say I do.
I wish World of Warcraft had psychicking and exemplary. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Cody. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say I do like that they added in the ability to buy the tokens with in-game currency as another gold sink, because the game, economy-wise, has needed gold sinks. It just the economy of World of Warcraft is so trash, and it's terrible because early on in the game it had a great economy, but as the expansions came and more gold became required and things just inflated so much, it became horrible.
Yes.
So it's good to see those gold sinks.
They are still hilariously underpowered because, to be real, Cody, I'm selling like BC era greens for tens of thousands of gold pieces.
Yeah, but that's for transmog though, isn't it?
I wish.
Really?
the economy is just thrashed.
Oof.
But okay, so the allied races for the Alliance are the Void Elves, the Light Forged Draenei, the Dark Iron Dwarves, the Kultiran, and the Mechagnomes. The Void Elves are like are like the Blood Elves but blue. The Light Forged Draenei are just like white space goats instead of blue. Dark Iron Dwarves, I mean, Dark Iron. The Kultirans are just chunky humans. And then Mechagnomes are just cyborg gnomes.
But they're humans that can be druids, apparently.
Molly says, I do think that Final Fantasy XIV is better than WoW, though. I much prefer it, and everyone I know that played WoW moved over to Final Fantasy XIV says the same thing. Yeah, I have friends who have been playing Final Fantasy XIV, who used to play WoW, who still 2-3 times a year go back and play a month of World of Warcraft and really sink into it and enjoy themselves, but then they always end up going back to Final Fantasy XIV. So
I have to say, Final Fantasy XIV is good in theory. It's just, it was really hard for me to get into as much, and I do like the overall feel of the combat and stuff in World of Warcraft more than I did in Final Fantasy.
How many of the big combat rates did you get in 14? Because, man, I like the placement of the fighting and the working together with your squad and doing all that stuff that you just don't.
I
don't feel like you really get to do that in
inner class mechanics and the actual just feel and theme of the personal side of the combat. I liked the flow of it better in World of Warcraft.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way there, but the plot line, the graphics, almost every other facet about 14 is strong.
No, 14 is a beautiful game.
In my opinion, the best crafting system in any MMO. The best crafting system in any MMO, and very, very high up there in crafting systems in video games, I would say.
Not to mention OP, Molly. Frostmage is fucking brutal.
Love the mages.
But yeah, like I'm more of a WoW player because the PvP systems in World of Warcraft are vastly superior. But that's the premise for World of Warcraft is player versus player.
Is player versus player. Whereas Final Fantasy XIV is working together as a group is the whole thing, and also it works really well.
On raid, so it is definitely superior raid and superior content overall. Although Shadowlands for WoW is really good. Like, if you're going to play a WoW expansion, play Wrath of the Lich King 2.0, also known as Shadowlands.
Which is a big reason that I kind of want to come back and try Shadowlands, because Wrath of the Lich King was my favorite X-Pack, and I kind of want to come back and try it before it's basically done with.
It explains the origins of Arthas's helmet and Kel'Thuzad and most of the influence of the Lich King and Naxxramas on the world.
Nice.
Shadowlands is just generic Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, is what Molly says. She also says that she thinks that Final Fantasy XIV is more of a roleplay game than PvP, and
from somebody who's played both X-Packs, I get where you're coming from. And that joke has been thrown around, but the plot lines are wildly different.
I will say that I think as a game you could mostly play single player if you don't actually want to hang out with other people, that the main storyline of Final Fantasy XIV is rock solid. Like, it's really good.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It's a good story. It's a good progression of things, but part of the thing that you just said there is one of my biggest critiques about it. You can't play it solo all the way through. You do need to do dungeons. It's a requirement to get past certain parts in the game. Whereas in World of Warcraft, you can quest your way all the way up and just play by yourself the entire time if you want to. Like, if you want that kind of an experience, World of Warcraft, far superior. It is just what it is.
Right. But I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that World of Warcraft has even a multi-linear, cohesive, like, through line for the story for like the main character is otherwise important. In Final Fantasy XIV, you're important to the story. In World of Warcraft, you are another cog in the wheel, is the story. Like, you're just moving up through the ranks doing relevant story stuff to your locations based on your class or race, origin.
That has a lot to do with the fact that WoW is, the design differences and plot differences. But you are absolutely correct. Final Fantasy XIV, you are the center of the plot line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is about the individual versus the actual faction.
Because not
Because
everybody
WoW,
can do
you don't start
Knights
becoming
of
the center
the
of the plot line until late expansions.
because not everybody can do the Old Republic, where people get to influence how the story plays out based on character interactions and plot scenes. And you know what? If I was doing an MMO, I'd aim for that, because that shit
it's
is...
KOTOR?
Yeah. Well, not KOTOR. Old Republic, right? It's just called Old Republic?
Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's called
Star Wars.
Everybody's called it SWOTOR for as long as I remember.
SWOTOR? I don't know about SWOTOR, but alright. And also to Molly's point, I'm not saying World of Warcraft is a bad game, far from it. It's not a bad game. But it is my third favorite MMO. Like, it's not, I wouldn't even, yeah. It's a combat between City of Heroes and Final Fantasy XIV, probably leaning to Final Fantasy XIV at this point, and then it's World of Warcraft at number 3.
Well, look, I'm not here to sit here and extol all the virtues of World of Warcraft as if it's the best thing since sliced bread. There are reasons I don't play it today. Like, the game, one of the big things, and I've talked with Carl about this, fairly at length, but one of the big issues for me was back around the time of Mists of Pandaria, the systemic changes they were making to try to make the game more global, more open to completely casual play and stuff like that. It turned the game around to where you didn't need guilds anymore for progression rating, for any of the big stuff, and people started to kind of just go off and do their own thing. They would stop becoming guilds. Guilds became less tight-knit, except for at the absolute top levels of the game where, like maybe the top 10 guilds, and even then, those were more recruiting grounds for talent than they were the close-knit communities. And it just, for my experience, died when the really big raid guild that was a bunch of friends that I became a part of Wrath of the Lich King era started to fall apart because people were going off and raiding on their own times and things that were more useful for them, which granted I understand why they'd want to do that. They want to make it more accessible. That's a perfectly reasonable thing, but at the same time it took away the needs for guilds. It took away a lot of that community part. And I mean, you can go even further back where servers stopped being servers. You don't have to be good on your server when you can recruit raiders from other servers to come cross realm and do things with you on that realm. Your reputation on your server doesn't matter, so you can be a complete dick to people, and it's never going to really affect you negatively like it would have back in the days of vanilla and
or in Final Fantasy XIV, where you can basically have like a grading system at the end of trials and stuff like that.
All up in the Cataclysm, it was still something you had to be cautious of.
Right.
A reputation for being an asshole, and then you would never get into a raid.
Right, exactly.
Nowadays, still very much kind of that problem where there is, although there's still more of a need for the raids, there's still LFR. Now, if you're casual, that's where you're going to end up. If you're just showing up and you're just trying to get your gear, trying to see the content, you're going to end up in looking for raid. If you're wanting to actually start doing hard content, you're going to need to still get a guild, or at least a consistent 5-man group so you can do Mythic Plus. Now,
which is what I've heard, and I do like the sounds of it moving back to that.
Which is good, but the problem is that they have not taken enough measures to kind of allow the communities to rebuild. And some of that has a lot to do with the fact that they can't undo their infrastructural changes that made everything cross-realm.
Yep,
that would shatter the spine of their infrastructure, and WoW would never be WoW again.
Although guild perks from Cataclysm should come back.
They kind of shortened them. Like they're all still there. They just kind of munched down in like the first 15 ranks.
Mass Resurrection went away. All the good ones that you had to stick together and be a part of a guild for a long time that were really useful, if not necessarily required, went away.
Mass Res is now a healer class feature.
Right.
For every healer.
What I'm saying is they had these really big, impactful, but not necessarily required to play the game abilities that incentivized you to stick with a guild,
Right. They also, something else that they did that they haven't undone was, remember how you used to grind faction with your guild?
Yeah.
Like when they added that in, and then like everybody was like, it takes forever to get to Exalted. Now it takes like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not kidding. Like you do like 6 quests and you're done.
It's silly.
I don't want to interrupt you guys having your WoW conversation, but I figure I could probably take this opportunity to go get myself a drink because I have nothing to add to this particular discussion. So if you guys want to go on, please do.
It's all good. So for those of you out here who play Final Fantasy, for when I am online occasionally, I do have a white mage with a 497 item level. My paladin's item level, it's also 80. 80 white mage, 80 scholar, 80 paladin, 80 summoner, 71 dragoon, 55 dark knight, 60 gunbreaker, 55 samurai, 38 machinist, and 5 thaumaturge. I don't really play the thaumaturge. I'm not. I don't know why I don't like black mage in this game.
That was, sir, a lot of words. And thankfully I understood most of them.
It's all good. So I play primarily healers in pretty much everything I do.
Oh, that's
So-
you say that, and that's yet another thing that kind of disappointed me about one of the big changes they did in World of Warcraft, for specifically the Discipline Priest. It no longer plays like the old Atonement Discipline style that I actually really had a lot of fun with.
I would not be able to speak to that as I've not rolled a priest in like 4 years.
Yeah, it was all shields, and then just like spamming damage to do kind of a group heals, and then maybe an occasional prayer of mending or something like that. Just the play style totally changed, and then suddenly all the healers are now also damage dealers, have to do all this to be able to make things keep up, and it took away that primary.
The meta definitely shifted to where healers now have to do damage, otherwise you're just gonna run out of mana.
Yeah, and that completely took away from that being the class identity of the Discipline Priest, like the Atonement Priest specifically. And now it's just the normal run of things, and it's like, well, okay, I guess I can play anything and do that.
Right, and it's so the reason why WoW did that is actually due to the influence of other MMOs that were doing it, such as Star Wars: The Old Republic, when
Right.
your healer had to do damage.
Yeah.
And other popular games at the time, and that surfaced all around that time of the Old Republic, and there were a couple other MMOs at that time. I think like Guild Wars 2 was doing it as well, where the healers had to shell out damage.
We've switched to Guild Wars 2. I remember Guild Wars 2.
Well, we're still talking about WoW. Actually, it's just referencing points and change.
But I will say, if you're gonna do an FNAF 2, you're probably gonna want to get on it if you're wanting to do it while I'm here at least. Because I have a maximum of 49 minutes before I have to be basically getting off of here and going out the door.
Well,
Go FNAF.
let me put it to you this way, Cody. We're having this conversation. As much as I intended to play FNAF today, the Twitch thing lists us as having like 5 to 7 viewers, depending, having a conversation. So if you guys want to keep talking, that appears to be getting viewers. And also, that would allow me basically one run in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So I can go either way on that one.
I'm down.
I mean, right now we're basically just chatting it up on what.
I mean, we are listed as just chatting. I did fix that like an hour ago. So
right.
Well, you're probably gonna want to record that. So yeah, let's. I need to go potty, and I'm gonna go smoke. When I get back, we can start. I guess we could like do a history of the World of Warcraft.
Oh no, but then there's a picture of me on screen being unable to interact because I don't know things about. My World of Warcraft experience is dozens of hours, not hundreds of hours. That's, I guess, is how I would put that.
So, to let y'all know, my World of Warcraft experience is literally years.
Yeah, same. Since vanilla on up.
Literally years.
Yep.
Until
Let's
Final
see,
Fantasy
hold
XIV,
on,
I would
hold on,
basically get...
No, decades for me.
No, it can't be plural decades. We only have one decade of WoW.
And we're approaching decades.
We're approaching 2 decades of WoW, but not yet. Okay, so to Molly's point, I don't know if you're talking about the current playthrough of FNAF that you're enjoying, or if you mean like what I did last Monday. Like either way, thank you for enjoying the FNAF. Otherwise, I came in at the month before Burning Crusade. I remember this because that was when I learned that in addition to having to purchase Burning Crusade to play the additional content, which I was used to doing at the time, from having played many years of City of Heroes, I didn't know you had to buy another month of time. Because what assholes make it so that you buy an expansion pack to a game and don't get a free month? Because my only experience was City of Heroes.
Yeah. You're not wrong on that. I remember that was a pretty common practice at the time, and I was pretty surprised when you bought the X pack and didn't get a month of time with it. It's like, because you would buy the base game, and the base game came with a month, so they've even conditioned you to expect that.
And even though Final Fantasy XIV wants you to buy a different license for Mac, a different license for Windows, and a different license for PlayStation, every one of those licenses comes with a month of game time.
Yeah.
And then basically for the next couple of years, every year or two, I would basically come in an expansion pack. I would put in a solid 2.5, 3 weeks worth of playing World of Warcraft, going through the story, reading it, enjoying it, getting all the way up to higher levels, never once ever reaching max level ever. And I basically did that until, I think, to catch up on all the expansion packs and stuff like that was around, not Northrend, hold on. There was one or two expansion packs after Cataclysm, and I came in there, and that was the last time I...
Warlords of Draenor came after. Well,
Yeah.
After Cataclysm, there was Mists of Pandaria,
Warlords, Legion, and Shadowlands.
Battle for
BFA,
Azeroth,
then
and then Shadowlands.
Yeah.
Battle for Azeroth, we don't talk about. It was awful.
Somewhere in there, that was the last time I put a whole bunch of money into getting game time and expansion packs and playing World of Warcraft. Because after that happened, some year or two later, Final Fantasy XIV exists, and everybody's saying good things about it. I'm seeing another friend enjoy it, and I found out I could play it on PlayStation, which was cool. So I played it on, I think I originally played it on PlayStation 3. I had a mouse and keyboard, so you could do controller and keyboard. That was cool, which I like doing. It had the control scheme for an MMO that I had been basically saying game companies needed to do for the past decade. Like, this is how you do it. Why don't you just do it like this? And then Final Fantasy XIV freaking does it that way with the controller. So awesome. And I found out that the servers are all unified between Mac, Windows, and PlayStation, so you have a bunch of people to play with. And that includes whether you were playing PlayStation 3 or 4 back in the day, and now it's 4 and 5, and soon it will probably be just... Well, actually, no. Actually, 14's coming to an end, right? So it'll be 4 and 5 at the end.
I don't think 14 is coming to an end yet.
I think they said that this next expansion is the last one. But, whatever the case may be, now, every other year or so, like just happened with Carl, and once again, Carl, on stream, I apologize for not really getting to play with you Final Fantasy XIV when you paid for me to be able to play Final Fantasy XIV. But
Monster, that it's so inexpensive to buy you guys a month. It's basically like
it's
it'd be
inexpensive
like
to
treating
you, but to
guys-
me, it's a whole game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could just get you the month. Like, don't worry about it. It's like me buying y'all beer. It's not a big deal.
Let's see. Yeah, Final Fantasy XIV gives you free months. Yeah, you also get a free trial, which includes completing the base game and the first expansion pack, all the content. If they repeat cycle, the next expansion pack. So, okay, Molly, there's one slight problem with that. You can't play the game free on your account if you've ever paid for it before. You just can't. You're out. You're not allowed to do that. That was my problem, because I'd already paid for the game. I played for the game like $30 to play it on PlayStation 3, and I played it solid for an entire month and got to the credits the first time and started a couple missions into the level 50 mission crush. And that's where I came back to the game the next time.
Mission crush.
Level 50 mission crush.
Yeah.
Yep. And I did that the next time I played the game, got all the way to the second time the credits roll when you get to the end of those 50 missions. Started... What's the first one? Stormbringer? First expansion?
Yeah.
Started Stormbringer.
Stormbringers, I think.
Whatever the first one is. I got, I'm going to say a third, maybe halfway through that story content, and then it dropped off. Then Carl got me the game, and I was intending to go back to it right then, and then I basically ran out of time and having we had like 2 weeks of there being shenanigans with Square Enix, and basically it drained me and I didn't get to it. Whatever excuse I would make.
Yeah,
and it didn't happen.
Like, I was dealing with a lot of the same, plus my job was being crazy around then, too. I was working 60-hour work weeks when I was trying to do that with you, Hunter.
Man, that's a lot of hours.
I remember that going down, and we were all having a hard time meeting up and actually finding time to do anything.
I was having regular panic attacks.
Can I just bring everything full circle to what's wrong with MMOs in the video game industry right now, and it's actually related back to politics, because
What's that?
I think it's that you can't have that most people's jobs in America, in addition to not paying enough so that people can say, like you said, Carl, oh, it's not that much, it's not that big of a deal to like pay for like a month of Final Fantasy. One, you want to be able to say that, and two, jobs just don't let us have set schedules when you're on the lower like echelon of jobs, so that you can actually just plan to have, D&D nights and Lancer nights and Werewolf nights and like actually have set time off that you don't have to worry about there being conflicts. And which really sucks if you're a student trying to go to school, because obviously school has a set schedule, and if your work doesn't, then you can't pay for school by going to work, which you didn't used to have to do. You used to just have school would just be covered, but now you have to work and pay for school, but now work won't give you the time off to go to school. I had employers who were complete assholes about swapping people's schedule when I could have worked their shift instead and they could have worked mine instead, so that they could make it to class on time, and they wouldn't do it. And that's just one of those vice grip things that is late stage capitalism. Like, I just putting that out there. I firmly believe more people would play MMOs, they would play them longer, they would do more with them if they had more both disposable income and set time off that they could just play game.
Yeah, that's where I think UBI would help out both the gaming community and everybody's stress levels, as well as turning the work week from a 40-hour work week to a 32-hour work week, because not everybody's got somebody at home to take care of all the bills and shit.
Honestly, just the switch to a 4-day work week period would be a huge benefit, and it's been tested and proven that it has actually increased company profits when companies have done stuff like that. It's just it makes perfect sense. You give people more of a chance to relax and handle the things that they need done with their family life. They will be less stressed at work and more willing to focus when you treat them better.
Yep.
The monthly stuff sucks. SE doesn't care about its consumer. Is that Sony Entertainment? Is what you mean, Mal? Because I'm bad with acronyms.
Square Enix, I'm guessing.
Square.
Oh, it could be Squeenix. Wait, what? How did I get logged out over here? What's going on?
I don't know.
That was weird.
Squeenix!
And yep, you're right. You keep people poor, they can't afford to move on to other companies. And that's
Which is why they get healthcare tied to their company, because if they have healthcare with their company, then if they move companies, there's going to be an interruption in their healthcare, so they don't want to leave their companies, even if they're crap.
The American employment system isn't an employment system. It's a slavery system with high-end benefits for a very select few number of individuals.
I believe we call it indentured servitude.
And the illusion of the possibility of moving up.
I don't want to cast any illusions about that. The American capitalistic system is basically slavery with extra steps.
Not to diminish actual slavery, it's not a critique or saying that wasn't harder or worse. Obviously, that's not what we're saying here.
No. It's wage slavery, which is like, let's call it 5% slavery. But it's still really bad.
So it's more than that. Like, there are a lot of people right now who are afraid to move on to other positions because they are worried that due to job instability that they may lose what they've got. Those minimalistic wages, there's so many different factors that are making people desperate. It's like the low wages, the high rent, the high food cost, the high utility cost. It's just it's a vice grip of low income and high costs.
Yeah, Cody and I both know the high rent.
I've got a perfect example of what you're talking about. Right now, I'm not going to say who, but I do know a person who currently has to maintain a certain number of hours or a certain amount of work, and then cannot get any more income than that, because if they do, their children will end up losing their Medicare benefits. I think it is Medicare, Medicaid, whichever. Meaning that they will have to pay out of pocket, or at least get some kind of an insurance, basically out of pocket.
Right, and the pay difference between what would be going on and the cost or the advantages that they're getting from the government, or Medicare, Medicaid, the difference isn't worth it. Right, because. Exactly. Sure, I'll get 2 extra hours a work week, but I lose $600 a month in coverage.
Right, and not to mention, then have to not only lose that coverage, but have to, in fact, pay additional things out of pocket, which are at much larger numbers, because the lowest cost private insurance is ass and does absolutely nothing for anybody who actually needs it.
And it's ridiculously expensive to boot.
So, yes. Molly also says, as a private owner, I shouldn't say this, but working for a private owner is a trap. I at least give my employees a fair wage. Raise economy segment. It was just it also says, I'm in that boat, Cody. I can't work over 20 hours or do physical labor, or I lose my medical benefits. If I go over, I have to pay almost $5,000. Right. Whereas,
that's another thing.
So that's another politics thing.
They get it even harder.
So in the healthcare front, for example, if like, I don't know, every other developed nation on the face of the planet, if America just everybody had healthcare as a right, you wouldn't have to worry about losing healthcare benefits for your job, gaining them because of your job, having them tied to your job, having them cost too much because they cost for your job. I don't think people realize that paying taxes is very often, but not always, very often cheaper than paying for something out of pocket to a private company.
All I have, I gotta be real, the insurance topic kind of inflames me. My stance is essentially this. Any country to where a person is having to ration out life-saving medication and skip meals in order to make that life-saving medication go longer, that country to where that person is having to do that, that country should be erased. The United States is scummy in that manner. We are predatory in our practices.
I have the same kind of opinion about the minimum wage. I had a conversation with a friend who ran a gas station for a major chain, but they ran a gas station. And they were like, yeah, but if you make the minimum wage go up to like $15 an hour, then I would go under because I can't pay everybody.
Disorder. People with diabetes have to do it all the time. I myself have had to do it in the past.
Wait, what? Huh? Oh, unless you have a rare disorder, pay insurance. Yeah. Okay. So they were having a conversation with me about how, like, if
for a second, I'll be right back.
It's all good.
Cool. If you raise the minimum wage, they wouldn't be able to pay their employees, or they wouldn't be able to keep their business running, and they go out of business. And I had to look at them and I said, man, you're my friend, but like, maybe your business shouldn't exist. If you are paying the people enough to live by, then you don't have a real business giving a real actual minimum wage, which is the minimum people have to live by. We have propagandized things so that people understand, or believe at least, that the minimum wage is for a supplemental income for people who are teenagers who don't need a whole bunch of money because they live with their parents or something, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
And I'm like,
and
no, minimum wage is what a whole bunch of people, like the majority of the country is in poverty, and a majority of people are getting paid the minimum wage, and the minimum wage isn't enough to live by because the minimum wage is supposed to be a living wage, which people now, at least on the conservative perspective, believe those are two different things. There's a minimum wage to pay people the least you can pay them, and then there's a living wage, which would be better than that, but obviously we shouldn't make those the same thing. When the idea of the minimum wage originally was that it was a living wage, the minimum living wage.
Right. And once again, the conservatives missed the point on that one.
Yeah.
Because the guy who came up with that, although he was a Republican, was a liberal.
You know what? Actually, let me backtrack that ever so slightly, because the Conservative Party, and by which I mean the Democratic Party, they don't get it, and neither does the other party, which is
not wrong.
Crazy right wing besides them. Like, it's not a Republican issue. I'm not here saying that's a Republican issue. I'm here saying it's a congressional issue. Like, it's people in trouble.
Issue.
It's an American issue. Everybody has this problem. People have the mindset that minimum wage is for people who shouldn't be making a lot of money, I guess, and also that it's some sort of special thing. And across polling data...
What makes their labor less valuable? What is the difference between a 17-year-old who works 30 hours a week and an 18-year-old who works 30 hours a week?
The difference is that they're younger than you, and you don't believe that they're worth as much as you are. That's the difference.
I disagree with that idea. I agree what you're saying. I disagree with the stance that our nation has. And I don't believe that anybody... Honestly, I don't think anybody should be making less than $27 an hour. Why? Because that's what a living wage equates to in modern inflation.
Well, modern inflation would be closer to $27. Yeah, $27. Yeah. Molly says
for 15.
It's for teens breaking free of their parents or going to college.
Would have been burnt to the ground, and the politicians would have all been beheaded.
And I would say that you can't. Here's a fun one: you can't break away from your parents because you don't make enough money. So the minimum wage isn't actually for that. The minimum wage is for your parents to, if you even got paid an allowance, to stop paying you an allowance, and it's also for that you have a way to pay them rent because you're stuck living under the roof because you can't afford a real place to live. But more than that,
the parents' perspective doesn't fucking matter, because fuck the parents. That's labor. It doesn't matter. It's $27 an hour minimum.
That's basically what
It's
you mean.
that
Okay.
simple.
Okay,
Like,
but
fuck the parents. Who cares about the parents? Fuck the
wait,
parents.
wait, wait. But the parent thing is another
Workers are
thing.
workers are workers.
Here's another trap that I find. Okay, so the government will get into arguments about how like certain people who make enough money shouldn't get health care or shouldn't be applied to like getting money for going to school or what have you because their family makes enough an income. And
right.
the reason
There's this idea that people shouldn't be getting that help though, and I disagree.
no, I'm saying
everybody should have that. Everybody should have college until
I
bachelor's
think
degree. And so under
I think the rich
government's
old people. I think the rich old people are missing out on the fact that the reason that you give all of the people, regardless of how much they make, these benefits through government spending isn't for them, it's for their kids. Because if you're a trust fund kid, you're told you're going to go into this family business, you're going to go and you're going to do this thing, you're going to live in this home that we're going to pay for, and you're going to do the family job, and that's how you're going to make the money, otherwise you're out. Because that rich kid, if they wanted to run away from their family or to just escape and do their own thing and make their own living, they are not allowed to because their family makes too much money. And that's one of those things I take issue with, because I know plenty of people who are basically stuck under their parents' thumb because they can't escape.
To be honest with you, Hunter, I don't know anybody who has a trust fund. I know a lot of people who are stuck under their parents' thumb because they can't afford to live on their own, but I don't know any trust fund kids.
I mean,
dated a trust fund
I'm not going to
girl
say I
back
know them
27
personally,
years
but
ago.
I know them from the circles I go into online. Because you know what? Surprising, and nobody who knows anything about them, furries have a very high income wage generally. Like the high income furries come out and they spend money on art and stuff like that. So I'm just saying that exists. But Molly says, I think children should not go from high school untrained and go right into making a ton of money. They don't know better. I think there should be a standard transition jobs that teach the value of labor and money. And she says, I agree. Wait, hold on. I agree that after that stage, everyone should make a living wage, but you can't just learn from getting everything from the start. Furries make bank, yeah. Okay, but Molly, and I think Carl's about to say this.
I have a point here too. So the labor is the labor. The work's still getting done. That employment position is advertised at a certain rate. And that position, regardless of who is in it, should pay that rate. It's not for the boss to make that judgment call on if that individual is worth more simply because mommy and daddy have money. The labor is getting done. It pays a flat rate.
I came into a discussion where the last thing I read is furries make bank, but
furries make bank. Furries make bank. We're very furry friendly here.
My point is as such. That work will always need to get done. Nobody deserves less money for it. It pays what it pays. I don't care if you are freaking Bill Gates' son or Bobby down the road's son.
All right.
Also,
Molly's point.
I get that. The whole idea
I get the idea of the transitional job. I get what you're saying.
That's the parents' job to teach.
But here's the thing:
inflicted on adults.
The transitional job shouldn't be based upon the wage; it should be based upon the hours. If you're going to be working,
yes,
because you should have whatever minimum wage is. Let's say you get enough to get by on minimum wage, and the requirement is 32 hours a week or something like that to be, or over 30 hours a week to be full time. Let's say that. Your difference in learning the value of money and making a little money on the side shouldn't be based upon how much an employer is willing to pay you every hour, but should instead be based upon how much time or dedication you have to be working a job in a week. So if you only work on the weekends doing a pizza delivery job because it's good money and good tips, and you work Friday and Saturday nights because you know they need you, then that's perfectly fine for somebody who is getting into the job market, because if nothing else, it leaves them Sunday to be able to spend the money and hang out with friends if they don't want to be working and getting a job. But we come from this perspective where it's like it's a requirement that they get a job and then we don't pay them enough. I think the math for minimum wage at like Pizza Hut right now is what? It's like 6 cents a minute or something like that. Like, it's really, if you think about it in that perspective, like, it's super pathetic. Like, it's really bad. And I had to look at an employer more than one occasion and literally tell them, you don't pay me enough to do that. And worse yet, telling me to like take the trash out or something at the end of shift when I've just logged out. I'm like, well, let me log back in. No, like, you've already logged out for the night. I'm like, well, then I can't take the trash out, can I? Because I'm not getting paid.
Oh yeah.
You literally pay me $7.25. I'm not going to do any more than $7.25 I literally have paper cuts from folding and putting together cardboard boxes for pizzas. You can go fuck yourself. That last part I would leave out, but I would think it.
Fully
I would think
support
it.
that stance. Unless the manager's going to slap some cash on the counter and be like, "Take the garbage out. Here's the compensation." You have no business touching that garbage after you clocked out.
Molly says, "I am
this
not."
This idea of unpaid overtime and us being grateful to have it, that needs to be abolished.
Unpaid anything, unpaid internship. I mean, Twitch is basically an unpaid internship, but I'm like going into it myself doing this. Like I have not gotten paid. All these lovely people.
No. Twitch isn't an unpaid internship. It's a gig economy.
Fine.
Well,
No, because you get paid in the gig economy. I haven't gotten paid yet. I've been doing this for 10 months, and I haven't gotten paid yet.
You have yet to find your sponsor to actually be paid for the gig.
So,
for now, you're just taking tips.
So the last thing Molly says is, I am not basing that on the teen job. I'm basing that on the development of a younger person learning how to enter the workforce. The simpler solution would be to teach these skills in school, but the education system will not budge on it. It's been a fight for decades. I would say to you, Molly, that actually what you're taught in school is that you need to know these tasks, you need to know how this stuff works, you need to know how to do math and how to do science and physics and this, that, and the other, and none of that is relevant. Not anything that you generally learn in school is relevant to working at a pizza place or working at a fast food restaurant or working at a GameStop. None of that is important. What's most important at GameStop, after they teach you how to work the cash register, which is really simple because it's touchscreen at this point, is knowing about video games. And they don't teach you that in school. And at a pizza place, it's how to put stuff on a pizza and how to work a cash register. Like, the most complicated thing at a base level job is how to work the cash register. That's the most difficult thing. And school doesn't teach you that. School doesn't teach you how to work a cash register. And they don't teach you about putting toppings on pizzas. That's stuff that you might...
Your taxes.
Or how to file your taxes. Like, school doesn't prepare you for the menial tasks that is understood to be the job force and how it works. And if you want to go into anything more difficult than that, say doing trucking jobs across America or something like that, then you're going to have to be taught, you're going to have to be put in real hours, whether it be learning the basics in American Truck Simulator or not, to go to a job and be trained how to do something on the job. And again, school isn't going to teach you that. School, at least in America, doesn't require you to have driver's ed, so that you can drive around and not crash into people like a dumbass because you don't know the basic rules of the road, which, again, is so ubiquitous in America, you'd think it'd be something we teach. And all school really teaches you is how to get by doing menial tasks, doing homework that isn't necessary or required to learn anything, but it just teaches you the repetitive nature. Like, when you're sitting in school complaining about how is this supposed to teach me to do stuff out in the real world, I'm just doing the same stuff over and over again, and it's not new or interesting or different, and I'm just doing like the same math equations over and over again in math class. Congratulations. The menial part of that, the repetitive part, is what's teaching you to work in the workforce. Let's see.
The American school system is not proper for the modern era. It is very much built off of the idea that the majority of American workers are going to be factory workers. We have long since moved away from that.
Molly says there should be electives.
You are correct. It teaches a lot of repetitive task, menial labor kind of things, and it teaches a lot of basic. It teaches you basic math so you can count and be able to check and follow a checklist.
It teaches us for a system that was around 50 years ago. It's not relevant to
or
today.
Longer ago than that. Because I'm about to be 40.
That 50 years ago, that system was still relevant, is what I mean.
Right.
Not that it was created then.
Right. The school
Molly says there should be electives to
updated.
apply for college, or how to sew, how to repair your sink, how to drive a car, how to balance and manage a checkbook.
Well,
Fuck geography or social
used to
studies.
be how to sew, how to repair your car. There used to be. I took home ec and shop class. I learned how to sew.
Same.
I learned how to work on some parts of my car.
Yeah, I had home
when
ec.
I was in shop, I was not sober, so let's not talk about that.
Wow, Carl, you were not sober in high school? I guess you were French. Oh, no, I didn't say that. That's not
very true.
I'm not going to fuck geography or social studies, though. I mean, I still think that social studies has some important things to teach us. We don't lose,
if they taught it to us, which they didn't.
I was going to say, if they were actually teaching proper social studies and not just basically here's a little bit of by-the-book textbook shit that isn't relevant to anything, sure.
I have learned more from Netflix documentaries than I learned in like 6-7 years of the end of middle school and high school, because I didn't know about, what was it called, Black Wall Street? I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know the thing about the 13th Amendment. I didn't know when they say in the South, because I'm in South Carolina, that, the Civil War was fought over states' rights. If you're taught that in school, you don't know that's wrong, okay? You don't know that the majority of the states seceding in their documentation for why they're leaving is because of slavery, explicitly about slavery, because they just don't teach you that stuff.
So let's go ahead and go over the full argument on that one. It is about states' rights. Now, it is about the states' rights to maintain an inhumane practice, but it was about states' rights on that. So the cited reason that of the secession was about states' rights. Now, everybody in this room, everybody in this stream knows that what that directly translates to is a bunch of rich white fucks trying to own people.
I mean, yeah.
But the cited reason, the documented reason, is about states' rights. Total bullshit.
And it doesn't help that all of our social studies books are created in Texas, or all of our teaching utensils and everything are built in Texas. I'm glad that. Thank you for interacting with Molly, because I don't want we got to make sure we're getting the chat involved. Carl, can you see the chat, by the way?
I'm watching it. I've been responding to Molly.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. For anybody who's just listening. That's the part where I read it aloud. Molly says, my brother didn't get issued a social studies book until his high school until senior year, and it was 10th grade American history book he already had because he took it in 10th grade. Yeah, I had a history book in 11th grade. Fun story. I had a history book in 11th grade, I think it was. That was the same book they'd been using for 30 years. It was this old maroon book that was like this thick. And the funny story about that is, it's one of the few confrontations that my mom has had with a teacher over me, which is at the end of the year, they have you return all your books, and, so they can pass them on to the next group of students and still give them even more outdated information than the year you're taking it. But in any event, and this is until you get to college, in which they republish the book every 2 quarters or some shit. So if you have to retake a class, you have to buy the book again. But we're not at college. We're at high school. So in high school...
Well, and don't forget that when they republish that book, it has all of 2 images different, and basically.
Yeah, and they move the placement of 2 or 3 of the chapters, but otherwise it's the same chapter.
Poor.
Well, no. No. Wait, hold on. What did you just say,
That's
Carl?
money milking.
That's money milking. That's.
Yeah, but you're money milking the system because the system is currently off in loan land for. Well, now we're off of what I was saying, but we're off in loan land because having loans to pay for going to college is mainly paying the exorbitant prices of going to school and paying for books and stuff like that they keep raising prices on, because it's not like it used to be fixed by the government, so it was low. When I was in the transition, right? When I first went to my first year of college, it was $600 to go to that semester of college. The semester 2 semesters later was over $1,600, and then 2 more years than that, I had to apply for FAFSA and lottery to be able to pay for going to college. And I was okay to that point about the money and low income, and because you're getting a starting job. When I started going to school, I was under the impression I'm going to be going out into the real world. I'm going to be doing adult things, so I need to take care of myself. So I actually didn't apply for all the stuff I should have applied for getting money to go to college. And I drained my savings that I'd had for 12 years that I barely touched, that I was preparing for, needing expenses and stuff like that. All that stuff vanished the semester I needed to pay $1,600 to pay for my education, that I paid out of my own pocket because I hadn't properly applied for things, because I thought I'm being prepared, I should be ready to do this. And that was not the case. The history book thing... Quick funny story in here. The teacher got mad at me because the book I turned in wasn't mine. The book that was the one I had been using the whole semester, because you sign your name in the front of the book. So you can see how long... That's how I knew how long people had been using that book. It was a dozen plus years, because all their names were in the front cover, to the point where they had to put stickers over the thing to blank out the names that had come before. A student who was no longer in class is whose book it was, and they sat next to me at some point, So the assumption is that the two books got swapped, and they were going to have me pay over $200 to replace an old-ass book that was hard to find anymore, that I literally have enough copies for because I have my book and I turned it in, and my mom chewed that teacher the fuck out.
How old were you at that time, Hunter?
16? 17?
Okay,
it was like sophomore year of high school. Wait, not sophomore. What is junior? I think it was junior year.
That happened to me because I would have lit the book on fire in front of the teacher in the classroom right there on the spot and not give it a fuck.
Well, Carl, I don't have alcohol or weapons. I'm me in high school. What are you talking about? I don't even have those things now.
Well, so in fairness, I didn't have alcohol. Well, I did have alcohol. I didn't have
You
any
did
weapons,
too.
though.
You just admitted to it on stream. Like,
I had lots of alcohol, no weapons.
Can't go back on that one.
No. Lighter, that's definitely a weapon. If nothing else, it's smoking. A lighter is smoking.
Yeah,
I know that one.
Smoked. Yeah, I smoked.
There you go. Also a French thing to do, I'm just saying.
Back around that era, you could basically carry a lighter if you were a Boy Scout, and they wouldn't care.
Yep.
If you were a Boy Scout, maybe. But also, it was
40.
smoking.
I am 40.
You're doing it there, you're smoking, she said to me, and I'm like, I've never smoked in my life. What are you talking about? Empty your pockets. I don't have any pockets. I'm wearing sweats. What are you talking about? What was her name? Oh, man. Patrolling the halls.
I got a couple of conversations with some teachers about smoking, and they were like, empty your pockets, and I was, no, and I left the school.
Molly
called
says,
my mom.
what colleges do now is
My
reward...
mom and dad were like, well, why did you tell the people? They were screaming at me, and I was just like, I don't care.
Oh yeah, so yeah, what Molly just said in the chat about the books is correct, and that's basically what I was saying.
Reality.
My problem right now is I literally own a bunch of college books that were slightly, but not so much cheaper, getting them digitally. But a couple of years pass, and they changed the application that they used for school, and they made it so the other application wouldn't exist. So all those digital books I bought and paid a whole bunch of fucking money for, that, by the way, you can't trade in because they're digital books, they just made my books evaporate. I don't even have access to those books anymore.
Yep, and that's how they enforce you having to continually buy them, because now it's not just a hard copy you can just have forever. No, they don't want that. They don't want you having.
And teachers will refuse to teach you if you don't have the current book. Some teachers will refuse to teach you, even if the last semester book that you were in their class previously applies and has all the same knowledge. It's just in the wrong places because the chapters.
I had a teacher do that to me.
Yeah, I had a teacher do that to me too.
And you know what I did? I withdrew. I lodged a complaint.
I also withdrew. Yes, there you go. That's exactly right.
I withdrew. I got my money back, which was the big part. Now, here's the reason why. This particular teacher, they were an HTML programmer. I had been in the field for like 7 years at this point when this guy was teaching me. I knew I was there as a bird course. And I walked in there, and I worked a full-time job. And I walked in there late, and he's like, well, why are you late? And I'm like, I work a full-time job. And he didn't seem to like that answer. And then he's like, well, everybody's working on this. And I'm like, and he's like, try not to be late. And I'm like, I
will be late.
Get off. I will be late.
I will be late.
I work a full-time job. Do you not get? And he didn't like that attitude because I flatly said it just like that.
You know what?
It kind of spiraled out of control pretty quick. And then he's like, well, we'll have to see about that. I'm like, no. I sat down and I went ahead.
There's nothing to see.
There's nothing to see about that. Like because I literally was working for the school he was working for. I worked for the school.
That's funny.
Agreeing completely with Molly in the chat over the books thing. We were just talking about that. Like, yeah, the digital books thing is not just a scam, but it's not specifically a scam. You see, it's merely an extension of the existing scam. That's kind of the problem.
It is an evolution of the old scam. It is software update.
It is not a new scam. That scam has always been.
The scam.
And so on that note, to Carl in college and stuff like that, and having a full-time job, I had a teacher. Let's take a moment to possibly throw out to some of the good teachers we've had, because I was just remembering. I wish I could remember his name. Is kind of the problem right now, but He was a QBasic teacher and C++ teacher at Tri-County Technical College, I will say. And he told the class at one point that the way he keeps track of everything on the school, the way the school wants it, is very insecure, but that's how they want it. And he just said to the class, if you know enough coding stuff that you can just fly through this class and it's no big deal to you, I will let you have the highest grade in the class if you can get into your grades and make them the highest level grade.
That's fair.
And I was like,
Fair.
because he says, if you know enough how to do that, then you don't need to be in this class anymore, and you should have a high grade. And then you don't have to show up anymore.
I had a different teacher in my earlier portions of college who was my hardware teacher. This teacher was awesome. He basically said at the beginning of the class, look, I am teaching the exact same stuff that's on the A+ hardware certification. If you go get that certification, you could skip the rest of the semester.
Yeah.
Guess what I did?
Man, tell you what, coding teachers, they know
I
what's
got
up.
my A+ hardware certification and skipped the rest of the semester.
Molly says,
he was great.
my brother got racially recriminated against in his, or would that be discriminated against, in his first time going to college. He kept asking a question about an equation he didn't understand, and the professor kept telling him to look at the example. A few days later, he watched the professor help a student work out the problem step by step on their exam. He immediately walked out and reported him, but they didn't believe my brother because he was brown. So I withdrew him, reported the school, and sued. They lost accreditation, and it took 7 years to get it back. Fight with me, and I will destroy you. Way to go, Molly.
That is exactly what you should have done, and I'm so happy to hear that that's what happened.
That's exactly what you should have done.
I had a teacher lie to me about how much trouble I was in, to the point where they said that the FBI was involved and that there were accusations of child pornography. Keep in mind, everything I'm about to say to you isn't just not true. It wasn't true when he said it. And he was trying to get me to admit to doing something technical on the computers, which I hadn't done, and that I was going to be in a whole lot of trouble with the government, to the point where I had to end up getting the parents in and going to the dean of students and talking about what was going on. And luckily, the end result was the dean of students going, he said what to you? And going and having words with that guy because of the fucking terrible things he lied about to, like, try and scare me into admitting I had done something.
Yeah, that's fucked.
I mean, there's something in there that should be criminal. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the child
when
pornography
you threaten
is
somebody who is barely in college that the FBI might get involved in, like, if a child pornography thing was somebody else in the science lab, and else the computer lab had they done that, and I was the only person who knew anything about something weird going on in the computers, which it looked like I was because I was the one getting in trouble, and that got tied to me, that would basically be the end of my life. Like, and I was not even 20 years in at that point. Like, it would be over for me if that was the case, and he did that.
Slander and libel laws would cover that, although slander and libel laws are also notoriously hard to enforce.
Well, it would be even more so because it's the person telling you that they're raising these things without actually raising these things. It's
Right.
literally just lying to you about what they are / didn't actually do.
Falls under blackmail.
Yeah,
Like-
that would make more sense.
You know that thing. You probably know this, Carl, and Cody might know this as well. There's a thing at the at schools now that basically reinstalls from an image the computer at sometimes the start of every day. So it's set to a certain standard. So way back then, what had happened was some people were installing games on the computers that they didn't want to install again the next day. So they would make it so that wouldn't happen anymore. I knew they were doing it, so I was utilizing it by installing games because I had fucking 3 hours between classes, so I was playing games on the computers while I was waiting for my next class to start. Obviously, I wasn't playing in class. I have a hard enough time paying attention anyway. But, so in the time between classes, and so I knew what was happening. Me and another friend who I won't name on stream just for the sake of this is a whole terrible story anyway. But, like, so we knew what was happening, and we were utilizing that effect of it. But the understanding was somebody else was doing something super terrible, malicious, because the computers were not wiping themselves every time the day started, or at the afternoon or whatever. And
so wait, so this guy didn't maintain that system, and he came down on your head because he's bad?
He was trying to find out who was messing with the computers, and
Yeah, he's
because
not
we
the
knew the
internet
computers had been messed
security
with, we were the ones that got pinned on. We got suspended for like one of the friends I had at the time knew how to do it and did it, so he got suspended for like 5 days. me and this other friend got suspended for 3 days, even though we weren't doing it. We were just taking advantage of it. We knew about it, and we were utilizing the exploit, if you will. And furthermore, it made me fail 2 classes that semester because I missed tests that I was unable to make up because I got suspended for 3 days. Molly says, I tell people all the time, if you try and use a scare tactic on me and make me fearful for my life or my livelihood, I will not cooperate or give you the time of day. I have the right to confront, and safely I will get it. Same with yelling. If you yell at me, I will pretend you don't exist until you talk to me like a reasonable adult. And you know what? So I agree with that, but also...
There, Molly, although I'm sorry, Hunter, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the problem is that you have to keep in mind that this time period I'm talking about in my life is pre-Huntermun. Huntermun, the origin of Huntermun, not the name specifically, but the thought process of Huntermun, was me saying, I fucking hate Tyler, okay? I don't like anything about this person. They are a wimp. They roll over for everything. Everything is their fault. They're constantly, like, depressed and crying about things, and it was pissing me off how I was. But also, sometime at the end of high school, I'd begun LARPing. That's live-action roleplay. I've been playing Werewolf the Apocalypse. And I came to a realization one day, why don't I just figure out who I want to be and start doing that instead? Like, just roleplay being a different person that's kind of like what I like about me, but none of the stuff I don't like about me. And that's one of those fake it till you make it things, because all the anxiety and stuff that fucking Mind's Eye Society brought up in me years ago, and all the things that go bad in my life that I start freaking out, like this past week I was freaking out that Mal was pissed off at me. Like, that anxiety stuff is the undercurrent foundation that the Huntermun is on top of, and it still is in there, and I can't get rid of it sometimes, but this existence, this happy-go-lucky, talking at the screen, talking about video games, having a good time, enjoying life, for more or less, that is totally just an existence of fake it till you make it. Like, this was a lie until it wasn't a lie anymore.
And sometimes that's how life goes. But, yeah, as for, I agree with you on that one, Mal. Not Mal. Sorry. I was actually talking to our audience on that one.
Oh, okay.
I do agree with you on that one. And so, except the yelling thing. Yelling was just kind of a thing in my family. That's how we communicated with each other. We would shout across the house. We would shout across the room because we never really, like, faced each other, and we were all hard of hearing.
I would say there's a difference in yelling at somebody or yelling to somebody.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of at and that too. Like because
my stepdad made yelling a real problem for me. History. Like I would get physically like ready to throw down because of yelling, because somebody getting in my face. That's why I reacted that way when fucking Doc did it in LARP, and that's why I did it when Darren did it the one time. Even though I knew Darren was playing in character, that's the point at which after that was done, I crossed my fingers and I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe my heart won't stop racing. Like, I think I need to be checked for something. But it wasn't because I had enough out of character understanding about what was happening that I was fine with his character yelling at me in character for playing his character, and that was fine. But out of character, I hadn't connected to the fact that him yelling at me is what was setting me to have, like, heart palpitations or whatever the fuck. Like, I was having a panic moment, and I hadn't connected that those were two of the created things. I thought something unrelated had happened while he was yelling at me. And that's where I was.
Yeah, on that note, when I get excited, I tend to lift my voice. I'm a boisterous person when I'm in a good mood. Boisterous, excuse me. I am very loud when I'm in a good mood. I will shout and cheer and holler and scream and have as good old time as I can. But when it comes to like actual confrontation, when I was younger, I would get violent. As the years have progressed, I have gotten worse but more insidious. I don't get violent anymore. I just get you fired.
Hey, you know
Not
what?
to completely interrupt here, but it is getting to be 7 o'clock, and I do need to be heading off. So
that's true.
It's been nice talking with everyone here.
Are you free next Monday for possibly Five Nights at Freddy's 2?
We'll play that by ear. I don't know right now, but it's a possibility.
Molly says, when my husband and I first started talking, he always used to accuse me of yelling because my voice is very high-pitched. That's not yelling, that's high-pitched. That's not the same thing.
I do know what Molly's talking about, and I don't personally see that as yelling, but I understand where you're coming from on that, or where he was coming from. And yeah,
Oh, but yeah, I get what you're saying though, Molly, because there are some people who don't realize that they set the grocery bag down angry at you. Like they don't know what that means.
You
like,
can't even tell. It's like, is somebody washing a dish angrily at you?
Yeah. Unless you've experienced washing a dish at you angrily, like you can't like just explain that to somebody. Like whenever groceries hit the table
wife
hard,
understands exactly that. And,
I still have that
I
reaction.
don't mean to angrily wash dishes, but I've been there. I do that. Like I'll either panic, or if I get really frustrated, like if I get angry now and there's like nothing I should do about it, I'll go and I'll like angrily wash dishes, and I'll have a nice clean house, but it's like anger clean.
There's a difference in angrily washing dishes and angrily washing dishes at somebody. That's all I'm gonna say. With that said, I do have to go.
You're not wrong.
It's
Cody
been a
has
good
to
chat.
It's been fun, Cody.
And we will see you in the future, and this may be of different quality. Like I don't know if we want the actually, before you go, Cody, real quick question. Besides, are you free next Monday to possibly do this again?
That's a maybe.
Okay. Besides that, do you have a problem with me finding some excuse to put this up on the YouTube later, this conversation? Because I think these conversations are,
I don't mind. My only thing is I kind of wish that you were full screen rather than always the whole time being Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
I mean, there is that, but I mean, the music is playing, so that helps. And hello, Captain Soja. Some people are just loud.
Goodbye, Captain Soja.
And also goodbye from Cody.
I'm not opposed. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just gonna say that I think before I go to the full screen that I need a better webcam. That's fair. This is a poor quality 720/30. So
okay, then may I offer, for future purposes, maybe you should have a just chatting background.
Oh, you know what?
That would probably be pretty good. Since this seems to be kind of a break moment, though, I'm going to run to the restroom and go smoke really quick. I'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, catch y'all later. We'll see whenever the later is.
All right. See you in the future. Okay. So to Molly, I'll say, because Molly and Captain Soda are the only ones left now. Okay. So to Molly, I would say, there's a difference between angrily washing the dishes and washing the dishes angrily at someone. And my favorite is, I'm nearby and you do that kind of like dropping of the paper bag of the groceries. When you angrily drop the groceries at someone, that's a different thing also. Angrily collecting laundry, that was one. But that's, people don't, when there are undertones like that in growing up, it affects you in a certain way. And like I said, the Hunterman here is a fake it till you make it situation. And I think, and you know what? Captain Soja knew Tyler, so I would hope that Captain Soja would agree that Hunterman is at least a better person than that person. Let's see. Molly says, would you think about putting the religious talk on YouTube? Read the terms of service first. What does the terms of service on YouTube have to do about religious stuff? YouTube religious TOS. Wait, what? No, I don't want to search YouTube, you goofball. TOS, YouTube, religion. I don't think it really applies. Hate speech policy? Is that what you're referring to? Oh god, that's so bright. Here, let me move the chat over to the screen so I can kind of look in the direction of the camera. Hate speech is not allowed on you. Well, we didn't have any hate speech. Here are examples of hate speech not allowed on YouTube. I am glad this violent event happened. They got what they deserved. I didn't say that. This person with attribute noted above are dogs, or person with attribute noted above are like animals. Alright, we didn't do any of that. I mean, yeah, if you're ready to be upset about if you're ready to be upset about your religion, then there's a good chance that we upset you about your religion in the conversation earlier. But if you're an open-minded person with your religion, like, Booster seemed okay. then we should be all right. I mean, Carl is anti-religion, sure, but we said some well, okay. I mean, I think. I mean, I did say that I thought like basically all religions are bad. So yeah, but I'm not. I don't. But I also said I think it's based on individual persons because I don't believe any one religion is real. It's always what does a person actually believe, because it's always going to be their interpretation of like which edition of the rule book they're using, their interpretation of it, what their local society upbringing and everything has brought them to mean. So in actuality, nobody has overarching religious beliefs. People always have personal beliefs. If you think it's okay, then okay, it's just good to be cautious from talking about religion or politics. Well, I mean, I hear you, but that kind of talk is the same reason people miss out on having conversations about religion or politics. That's why I prefer to not... Learning that somebody would define themselves by their religion does bring me concern, but ultimately talking to somebody about what they actually believe is more important to me. Like, if we haven't met before and you use the wrong pronouns for me, I'm not going to be upset. I get it. I have a beard. Like, I get it. But if you know me, if you learn me, if you have the little thing up here over next to me and it says she, her, and you refuse to use that in chat when I pointed out to you the one time to be like, oh, actually it's she, her, like doing Among Us the other night with people, if you don't correct yourself, if you don't try and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, or what have you, if you don't make the effort, then, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're transphobic. It might just mean you're inconsiderate or an asshole or both. But it's not something I super worry about. I had somebody show up in chat, and if Captain Soja's still there, he can verify. When I was doing my birthday, somebody showed up and started smack talking Sands of Time, and that was the game I was playing at the moment. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And they were talking about how it's a shit game and this, that, and the other. And they were just being crude. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time to deal with this. And I banned them. I unbanned them months later because it wasn't that huge of a deal. And then later, we had guys who would show up and they were making fun of the pronouns. And they were doing I identify as a helicopter, all that shit. And I was like, I was trying to talk them down. But somebody was very insistent on being a racist and a bigot. So we were like, all right, you get banned. Then a couple of minutes later, somebody shows up by a different name and says, I am that person from before, I am not a racist, and then says the N-word, and I'm just like, and I ban you again. Like, that, you know, one of the things that Twitch asks of you, in case you don't know, if you are streaming, Molly, and I don't remember if you said you were at some point in the past, but one of the things Twitch asks of you is not that you have to make sure nothing, say, for example, appears here on screen that is super negative or bad or what have you, but that if it's super negative or bad, if it's a racist, bigoted thing, Twitch asks you to go look at your chat and respond to the chat and dissuade them from doing that in the future. And if they become active and continually to be a bigot or being a bad, terrible asshole of a person, to take them out of your chat or to give them a timeout or something like that, to respond to it as it needs to be responded to. If you let it happen, then you're letting it happen, and Twitch doesn't like that. And YouTube, to my understanding, is kind of the same way. I have had streams get interrupted by NIGGAH capital letters repeated over the screen, which would just, like on American Truck Simulator, just appear over to the side, just full. And I had to stop the stream and respond to that person. Why did you do that? That is not okay. Please stop doing that. And then they were like, oh, I was just trying to see if I could get past the filters. And I was like, yeah, but why? Why were you trying to get past the filters? That doesn't even apply to anybody who's currently on stream. That's not okay. Please don't do that. And they were like, okay, I won't do that. And that's my thing. I try and give somebody like a good once directly. Like, so, there have been rare occasions on stream in which I would go to like this full screen mode that you're seeing right now, from whatever game I was playing, interrupting the gameplay to directly address the person doing it to try and get them to either apologize or not do it. And that's kind of where I think it's probably okay that it's okay later, because the hate speech comes from you actively being hateful and you actively going against stuff and you actively endorsing or being complicit in allowing it to happen. And if you respond to it and try and interrupt it or prevent it from happening, like, that's why I kind of push back on Carl a little bit with the whole, like, Islam being a little bit worse than it, because I used to talk like that and I don't really believe it's true anymore. I believe most religions are about equally bad. Like, but I also believe that forcing a child into religion at a young age is abusive. I do believe that. I believe that before they have the knowledge to be able to dispute things, to be able to think critically about stuff, that you're telling them one way that the world works, and that way that you're telling them the world works is inherently illogical, that's not helpful to the development of a child. And that is a belief I have, and I don't think that's hate speech. I think that's, like, I don't think anybody would count that as any reasonable person. I'm sure some people would count it as hate speech, but, like, I don't think any reasonable person would count that as being hate speech. They might count it as an offensive opinion and a reason to not follow me or to not watch me on Twitch, or to hopefully not just put, like, a spurious report or something. But Molly says, "Oh, I agree. My husband and I have said several times when we have children that they be taught to think for themselves and pursue religion only if they want to, and we won't be disappointed if they do or not." Man, if I ever have kids, and I would like to have kids someday, I kind of want to make sure that they get education in a way I didn't. Like, I would want to be invested in them learning so that they could learn earlier things. First and foremost, I think they should be learning another language, because that's easier to learn when you're a kid, and you don't have any concept that it's useful until, like, 10, 15 years after you're a kid. I wish I knew other languages. But also things like I was talking about earlier, like, I didn't know the how exactly the 13th Amendment made it so slavery is very specifically for people who are criminals now. Like, we still have slavery, didn't get rid of slavery. I didn't know about anything to do with Black Wall Street. I didn't know about the experimenting on black soldiers and lying to them about what they're being injected with. And some people may have just learned that this past week. Spoilers for stuff that happens in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, because that came up, and, like, that's one of those tangential learning things I talk about, where video games or movies or whatever have a thing in them that you go and you look into and you go, oh, this is like a real thing that actually happened. The Chicago 6? Or is this Chicago 7? Chicago 7? I didn't know anything about that until the documentary. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment. That is where they drew the inspiration for a plot point that happens in the Marvel comic books that is happening in Falcon and the Winter Soldier now. So it's not exactly spoilers because it's been in the comics for ages at this point, but that's where that's drawn from, is doing the experiments. So they did a experiment like that on black soldiers, trying to see if they could get the serum working for Captain America, because you wouldn't want to risk white soldiers, is how it worked. Red, White, and Black, I think, is the full series that this backstory happens in. But, like, I don't even think I could do Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. Like, I just don't think I could do it. And besides it being such commercialism at this point, it wouldn't end up being happy, right? But then again, we're not going to live that long, because climate change is going to eventually become a tipping point if we can't do anything about it. It's going to be very hard to come back from come this decade. Like, at this point, we can solve everything that's going wrong with the environment, but it will still take more than a century for it to heal. So all the whacked out weather that we're having right now, we're basically guaranteed to have for at least the next 90 years, even if we fix everything starting now. And that's going to be part of the education. To think that my mom was learning about the dangers of climate change when she was growing up in high school, and that that's still not solved now is crazy. Meow says, that's another thing I will leave to them, but at least teach them to be respectful of someone else believes. If they want to believe in Santa, then Santa is real. Sure. I agree. I'm not going to actively tell a visiting child who is staying overnight with my kid that Santa doesn't exist. But if my kid ends up telling them Santa doesn't exist because that's what my kid understands from me, I'm not going to get invested in their parent being mad at me because they found out Santa doesn't exist. Like, well, he doesn't. Like, what do you want me to do with that? Be happy your kid's smart and they figured it out or got told it or something. Until they grow up, then they will have to face reality. And you and I both know that plenty of adults who grow up don't face reality. Let me see. If only to have different background music. Let's see. I'm not going to be playing Five Nights at Freddy's 2 without at least Cody here. So, just putting this out there. To have something else going on. Something in which we can continue having this conversation while I might be able to play, hypothetically. I put Breath of Fire on here, but, like, you can't really have this conversation over Breath of Fire because there's so much to talk about when Breath of Fire is happening. So I will do this poll in the chat for anybody who's watching. There are games that I can play that have a lot of downtime, if you will, a lot of stuff not happening, that I could definitely have these conversations over, and 3 of them are in the chat right now. That's Stellaris, which I've been enjoying the newest expansion from, and would be my go-to if nobody votes in the poll. American Truck or Euro Truck Simulator both have lots of downtime where you're just driving from place to place, and we could keep talking. You missed Stellaris the other day and you wanted to see it? Okay. What did you want to see? Have you seen Stellaris before, Molly? And I gotta tell you, Molly, if you think you might enjoy it, it's on sale right now, multiple places for $10. Okay? Just putting that out there. I think it's on Steam, it's on GOG, and it's on somewhere else, I think. I think it's on the Paradox website also. It's $10 right now, the base game. And one of the best parts about Stellaris, you have heard of it, but you haven't seen it? Alright. Well, we'll see how Oh, I don't have a thing on screen for the vote, do I? Wait, I can vote in my own poll? Since when can I vote in my own poll? You know what, on this occasion... Sure, why not? If I get the view results thing and go over here and do add browser source, current poll, let's see here. Oh, actually, that might not be enough space. Let's see here. There we go. And Stellaris wins with 2 votes. Okay. Alright, so let me ask you an honest question, Molly. I would prefer not to start a brand new game. Do you mind seeing a game from a more middle point? Or would you like me to start you a fresh game? Because you're the person who's on stream right now, so I would be entertaining you. Do you want to see me start fresh? Because I can do that. I'm certainly not opposed to it. Start anywhere? Why do I still hear the... Oh. I was like, I still hear it. Why is it still present? Because even though I closed the window, it's still over there. Alright, you're going to see me blink out for just a second while I switch over. So be ready for that. And...